Beautiful day in May, our first day of May. So I'm going to call the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. This is a joint concurrent meeting with the Board of County Commissioners, Reno City Council, Sparks City Council, Washoe County School District Board of Trustees, and the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority Board of Directors. So, Mr. Mayor, do you want to call your meeting to order?
Sure. Let's call the City of Sparks to order with a roll call, please, if I can remember. Yeah, I'm here.
Mayor Martini?
Thank you. Here.
Council members Abbott? Here. Lawson?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Bybee? Here. Dare? Here. Assistant City Manager Kreutz? Here. City Attorney Chad Adams? We have a quorum, thank you.
Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. I'd like to call to order the Reno City Council and ask the clerk for the roll.
Ruckus. Dewar.
Here.
Delgado absent at this time. McKenzie. Jarden.
Here.
Bobzien.
Here.
Sheevy absent. Madam Vice Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Trustee Taylor.
Good morning. We'd like to call this meeting.
There you go.
Good morning. We'd like to call this meeting of the Washoe County School District Board of Trustees to order, and we'll have a roll call from our clerk, from our assistant.
Trustee Feemster, Trustee Frankel, Trustee Holland, Trustee Kelly, Trustee Mayer, Trustee Raymond, President Taylor.
I'm here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Taylor. All right, and unfortunately, as chairman of the RCVA, we do not have a quorum today of our boards. We will not be opening the RCVA board meeting this morning. But as the chairman of the county commission, I would invite our fellow board members, Mr. Bill Wood and Mr. Mike Hicks, to sit in attendance and participate from the presentation. What? Oh, yes, thank you. Can I do, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call for County Commission, please?
Certainly. Chair Bob Lucy.
Here.
Vice Chair Marcia Burke-Bigler. Here. Kitty Jung. Vaughn Hartung.
Here.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
County Manager John Slaughter. Assistant District Attorney Paula Pirelli. Here. I'm Nancy Parent, County Clerk. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I would ask Mr. Etchart, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Thank you, Mr. Etchart. All right. Madam Clerk, we are going to move on to public comment. Mr. Manager, I'll read it. At this time, we have public comment as heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters on or off the concurrent meeting agenda. We have Mr. Jeff Church signed in.
And Mr. Church gave me handouts, which I'll distribute to everyone.
Thank you. Oh, my goodness. These allergies are...
Good morning, everyone. What a great opportunity. My name is Jeff Church. I run a website, renotaxrevolt.com, and as stated, there are handouts for you. So what's Jeff going to talk about today? Today I'm asking you for a legal opinion. The question is, and this is mainly, it's for the board members as well as your legal counsel, may a Nevada city, county, or state government entity belong at taxpayer expense to an organization that advocates for political or legislative issues? And then question number 2, does this include membership in the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce? And the Chamber, an advocacy group, is a 501c6 advocacy organization, not a charitable. The Nevada Constitution, Article 6, Section 9 reads, quote, the state shall not donate or loan money or its credit, subscribe to, or be interested in the stock of any company, association, or corporation except corporations formed for educational and charitable purposes, end quote. The Chamber is not one of those. Per its bylaws, the Chamber is not a 501c3 charitable or educational organization. It is a 501c6 commerce trade organization. And again, in your handout, it goes into much more detail. Further, these organizations are not prohibited from political lobbying. To me, as a non-attorney, the Nevada Constitution would seem clear. I'm not aware if there's other case law or any opinions from the Attorney General, the Ethics Commission, et cetera, so I'm asking you to do so. I would ask that the government, I would ask if any government, a state chartered organization, and we're a Dillon state applying to cities, if these laws apply to cities, counties, and other governments such as the RTC, school boards, other authorities, et cetera. As I mentioned, research shows the chamber, not the chamber's PAC, don't be confused, supported and lobbied for the RTC 5 gas tax, WC1 tax, and other political issues. Its own website acknowledges this lobbying. Records show that Trey Abney of the chamber is a paid Nevada lobbyist. A few good examples of what they lobby for include, quote, the chamber supports candidates and public officials who support you, end quote. Next quote, legislative reform of requirements like prevailing wage, collective bargaining, NRS 288-150, and supervisory unions, end quote. So once again, I'm asking you to look into this. I want to give you, since there's little case law, there is case law advisory with the the Texas Supreme Court that's spot on that prohibited such, and I'm going to quote in my next seconds, the Texas Attorney General holds that a county may not belong to a dues-paying member of an incorporated chamber of commerce. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you do get a legal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Next, we have Mr. Sam Dene.
Sam, DNA Dene, that's me. The DNA of Nevada government, Reno government, Washoe government, school government. Don't want to use up all my 3 minutes. I'm the DNA, nice smiley face back there. I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I spent many years flying fighters and bombers defending our nation. Now I'm down here defending our city from the media, wacko freaks, and sometimes from the government even. Before I lead into my main course, I want to tell you I'm a member of Renown Hospital, and I fortunately don't have to go there very often. I got this handout that I'm probably only one of 7 people who read it. Certainly back here on the back side, it has the Community Advisory Committee. I noticed that they have the Reno City Manager. Why don't they have Mr. Slaughter on there? He's been around for a long time. He's a great source of knowledge. Anyway, he didn't ask me to say that, but I think it would be a logical idea since I was the one who actually nominated him to be the county manager, and they obeyed me and hired him as the county manager. Now, as I said, I'm an Air Force Academy graduate. I've been to every council meeting, government meeting in Northern Nevada since 1994. I am the expert. I'm responsible for 92% of the good things about Reno. I challenge anybody, the media, wacko freaks, anybody to come up here and say I'm not responsible for 92% of the good things about Reno. Even that 3-minute clock up there, the Sam Dene, don't give him 1 extra second of freedom of speech clock. That was because of me. Now, here's the deal. I subscribe to the Reno Gazette, and slap your hand, Sam, but I have to, because I have to find out the lies that they tell and the people they attack every week so that I can protect those people. I also take this newspaper because it inspires me. They're lies. I wake up in the morning, I look at the thing, I'm a happy guy. I look at the paper, I see lies all over the headlines, and suddenly I'm inspired. So the latest scheme is this attack by the Reno Gazette wacko freaks against the sheriffs. The sheriff over there and our sheriff. And then on top of the sheriff, now they're also attacking the county commission. Granted, jail is not a good place to be, no doubt about it. Bad things happen in jails. But day after day after day, week after week, headlines, deaths behind bars. Give me a break. Give me a break. I have exposed so much corruption and horrible things through the years that the media wacko freaks are afraid to talk about. But I've been very successful in many things, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing I have not really been successful in yet is dismantling the Reno Gazette. The Reno Gazette needs to be dismantled and replaced with an honest newspaper, and I volunteered to be that honest newspaper. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you over there, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Dene.
thank you. Nice smiley face. Thank you over there.
Thank you, Mr. Dene. All right. Seeing no further public comment signed in at this time, we'll bring it back to the board. At this time,
Oh, hold on.
oh,
I'm sorry, I didn't know you had to sign up.
that's all right. Sir, come on down and we'll give you your 3 minutes and then we'll have you sign in and we'll, come on down, sir.
Sorry, I'm kind of new at this, so.
That's okay. You come right up here to the podium and speak and then we'll have you sign in after. We'll have you sign in
okay.
after. Can you state your name for the record, sir?
Good morning. My name is John Hesse. I live on the east side of the Wild Creek Golf Course. What, what a bunch of smiley faces. Sorry. I don't know this fellow, but anyway, I was speaking in behalf of the Wild Creek Golf Course with a group called Save Wild Creek. We went to a meeting the other day at Hug High School, and there was a real nice layout of a high school called quote-unquote Wild Creek High School, and it looked really good on paper. I just hope that that doesn't become a reality. The golf course as it is should stay with Washoe County. They should learn to manage it properly. Golf is a big game, and I think that they would do real well at it. The golf course out at Sierra Sage is now profitable. They're doing a darn good job. My wife and I were planting flowers this weekend. The hawks were flying by. The squirrels were running around. The golfers were running around. And to see a high school there, the high school should be down on the corner of Audi Boulevard and El Rancho. There's all sorts of property down there that is vacant. And if you could build the high school down there, you'd have a lot better ingress and egress. It would not take a golf course that I don't play golf that much, but I understand it's probably $500,000 a hole to put one in. We finally got a championship golf course here to put in, and now we want to put a high school there. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And I just wanted to show you my feelings after the 28 years that we had been up at the street called Malapai, and a lot of our neighbors are up there. They're getting older like I am, and but we haven't lost our fight yet. So if you are going to put a high school in there, we're going to battle you, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but we will use as much effort as we can to not have the high school there. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. And sir, if you could just go to the very back there and they'll have you help you sign in, please. Thank you. All right. Do we have any further public comment at this time? All right. Seeing no further public comment, we'll bring it back to the board. We are on to agenda item 5, approval of the agenda. Looking for a motion at this time.
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries all those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right. We are on to item 6, presentation and update on Washoe County Question 1, WC1, and the Washoe County School District Infrastructure Plan. Mr. Etchart, good morning.
Good morning. So, going to wait here just for a second for the PowerPoint presentation to come up. Oh, there's on one screen. Okay. So again, Pete Etchart, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Washoe County School District, and thank you, Chairman Lucy, and thank you for all being here this morning. Really feel this is an exciting day for the Washoe County.
Mr. Etchart, I apologize. We're going to have to move back 1 second here. We have to get an approval from all of the entities for their motions. I'm sorry. Sorry. Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes, for the City of Reno, may I get an approval of the agenda?
Second.
I have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
City Sparks,
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Washoe County School District, a motion? Second? Second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor? Opposition? Motion carries.
Thank you. My apologies on that. I'm sorry. This is the first concurrent meeting I've led, so. Mr. Etchart, now the floor is yours. I apologize.
Thank you very much. Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer for the Washoe County School District, and thank you again for all being here today. This is really an exciting day for the Washoe County School District, and I believe for the community as a whole. So I'm going to we've been asked many times by the community to talk about what the next steps are now that WC1 is passed and where we are heading as a school district. So I'd like to take a few minutes this morning to talk about where we are right now, our current conditions. We'll talk about the school funding that we now have. We'll talk about most importantly to you, the future of the Washoe County School District, the current and the future projects. I know this has interest to you as we look at many of these developments that may be coming to our area. And then, most importantly, I'll be answering any questions that you may have. So I'm going to kind of just jump right in. So our current conditions, that we know that we are overcrowded. We're still overcrowded, and unfortunately, some of our schools are severely overcrowded at this time. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, continue to rely upon these portables, trailers, and we are unfortunately even adding more this year until we can get these new schools built. But the great news is that we have a plan to ultimately start replacing these old portables. Now, we also have growth. We know the growth is here in the Washoe County School District. We may not exactly know when or where it will occur, but we have to be prepared to respond to any growth that occurs. Now, we don't predict growth as a school district, but we rely on those who do. And we work very closely with the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency on projected growth to our region, and then we tie that back into enrollment growth going into our schools. Now, we will continue to work with your staff, with your planning commissions, with yourself in regards to development impact letters for any developments that may be coming and any proposed developments. Now, I've been asked to kind of explain, this is a slide we've been using for a couple of years, actually. It was during WC1 when we were trying to explain to the community that there's potentially thousands of units that could be coming to our area. Now, I'm not saying these developments are going to be approved or not approved. These are just ones that were on the radar. These were ones that were here before the Great Recession. Some of them are coming back to life at this time. I've been asked to kind of specifically talk about these. The Mortenson development, we have seen a handbook. We have seen the Meridian 120, which is next door to Mortenson, actually coming into, they've met with us. Stonegate, we've actually had a lot of conversations with Stonegate. Actually, they have said they would donate 2 elementary school sites to the Washoe County School District, and we're negotiating on a high school site. We haven't seen anything at this time from Evans Ranch or Silver Star Ranch, except for the previous master plan that was presented. And Sunny Hills Rancho is kind of the same thing. We've seen a master plan, but that's it at this time. Now, we know that we're an older school district. Average age of our schools is 40 years old. And as we told the community during WC1, we have about $250 million of critical repair needs in our schools. Every school has specific needs, and we need a minimum of $20 million a year to keep our existing schools operating. And this is where we were falling behind in past years. We were only spending about $10 million a year because of our budget situation. But this problem, as we know, didn't occur overnight. It's not going to be solved overnight. But one thing I can tell you is all the information from all of our schools, all of our repair needs, we're going to continue using our data gallery. All the repair needs at every single school. You can click on a school, you can see exactly what those projects are. You'll see a description of every critical need. You'll see a cost estimate. And for those most critical needs, you'll even see a picture of what that repair need is at every school. Going forward, as we start bidding these projects and building these projects, you're going to see every single bid. You're going to see who the low bidder was, the second, third, and fourth bidders. All that information is there for the public to see. And this is something we just launched recently, WCSDbuilding.com. This is where the public can go. They can see a lot of the information on all the schools that we're starting to build. You can see interviews. You can see time-lapse pictures and videos of the progress of our new school construction. So this is really important to us, and we heard this a lot in the past about accountability and transparency. Those that are in black are ones that we've always had. We've always had annual independent financial audits. We've always followed state law and revised statutes with the Debt Management Commission, the Oversight Panel for School Facilities, and we've always had our Board of Trustees. But now we have those that are in red. The data gallery that I just showed you, our ongoing updates at WCSDbuilding.com, and very importantly, we now have the Capital Funding Protection Committee, which our Board of Trustees put into place. All CIP recommendations, whether it's repairing a roof or building a new school, first goes to this community group. This is made up of 11 individuals, 2 from Reno, 2 from Sparks, 2 from Washoe County. Those are the elected officials, and then 5 citizen members. Again, all projects first are recommended by them to our Board of Trustees. And then we actually do annual CIP evaluation reports. So when you put all of this together, I think we've taken accountability and transparency to the highest level. I seriously do not know of another organization or school district in the nation has anything greater than this. So get into funding, talk about where we are now. This is a very exciting slide for us, and all I can really say is thank you to the Washoe County community. We now have a sustainable source of funding. This new sales tax is 0.54% of dedicated sales tax that goes to capital needs to go along with the property tax we already have. This is the answer not just for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I believe this is the long-term solution for the next generation of students here in the Washoe County School District. Now, this sales tax was just started getting collected here in April. We will start seeing the funds come to us in June, so we are preparing for our first bond issuance on the new sales tax. I need to stress that this money, the property tax we have, the sales tax that we will start receiving, can only be spent on capital needs, including building, repairing, renovating schools. That's what this money is used for. It cannot be used for teachers or administrators or aides or bus drivers, just for building, repairing, and renovating schools. So what does WC1 mean to us? Well, it means everything to us. We're going to start getting caught up on those critical repairs, that $250 million backlog that I was talking about. We are going to avoid double sessions. Now, I can't stand up here and tell you that we'll never have to do double sessions as we're building these new schools, but it will not be the long-term strategy of the Washoe County School District. And we're ultimately going to get off that multi-track year-round calendar. Now, we know that we have several schools going on to that calendar next year, but we're going to get off that calendar as soon as we can start building these new elementary schools and they become online. We're going to get rid of those oldest portable trailer classrooms, and we're going to make significant renovations to our oldest schools. Now, this is a really important slide to us. This is what was created by the Public Schools Overcrowding Repair Needs Committee, and I know you can't read all the little projects, but this is what they created when they looked independently at our school district. This was 15 community members who came together, that was created by the legislature to look at our school district. They came up with this list of what the Washoe County School District needed over the next 9 years. And everything that we have allocated so far has gone exactly against this list. We have allocated $90 million at this time. This was kind of front-end loading the property tax that we received. We said during WC1 that we basically had $30 million a year going forward. Well, because we now know that sales tax is going to be coming, we're able to front-end load that $30 million a year and put $90 million instantly to get started on these projects. Again, everything was allocated against that list with one exception, and that was this. We weren't immune any more than other communities, other organizations, I should say, in the community from the recent flooding. Now our grounds building that's located in the Sparks Industrial Park flooded. It's flooded many times. We were able to take actually our insurance money and use an allocation from our capital funds. We're going to relocate that building. And really the takeaway I want to give from this is that we have to be nimble, just like with growth. We have to be able to be prepared to react to when emergencies come. And so we're going to relocate again this building. Because no one could foresee when the Public Schools Overcrowding Repair Needs Committee came together of what the needs are going to be for the next 10 or 20 years. So we will be nimble, but I can guarantee you all the schools that were shown on that list that were put on the ballot in this community are going to be built. Now, obviously, a lot of those are growth dependent. We don't know if those schools will be needed in the next 7 years or 12 years, but all of those schools will be needed. So let's get into the specifics of where we're going to be going with our plan going forward. Again, the first one is that we're going to spend at least $20 million a year getting caught up on our critical repair needs at all of our schools. We have to keep our existing schools operating as we work toward building new schools. The plan for high schools. Well, we're really excited, and I know many of you were there at the groundbreaking. First one is the Monty Ranch High School edition. This is well underway. I was there yesterday. Walls are now coming out of the ground. It's really exciting to see. This is a 22 classroom addition to the Monty Ranch High School, which was definitely facing double sessions if this was not completed. Science rooms, business lab, chemistry lab, computer lab, special ed room. This is an exciting day for Monty Ranch High School. We also have 2 other high schools that will be going, Cold Springs High School and South McCarran Butler Ranch Area High School. Now these again are growth related, and we will build these schools when growth dictates that we need them. We'll obviously be talking about the high school at Wild Creek and the repurposing of Hug High in the next agenda item. The last high school that we're preparing for is Sparks High School. We ultimately want to I shouldn't say repurpose, we want to renovate and expand Sparks High School into a full-size comprehensive high school. So we've been given authority by the Capital Funding Protection Committee and our Board of Trustees to start purchasing land kind of between where Mitchell Elementary School is and Sparks High School, to start acquiring those properties as they become available so we can ultimately expand Sparks High School. Middle schools. Middle schools are really where we get the biggest bang for the buck right now, and this is probably the most important for us to get started on. And the reason I say that is the Washoe County School District model has been for some time to have a middle school model of 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. So elementary schools would be pre-K through 5, middle school 6 through 8, and then high school 9 through 12. By moving 6th grade to the middle schools, we will be able to relieve a lot of our elementary schools and our middle school problem that we are currently facing by building these new middle schools. So we've identified 2 that we started on right away with the design process, one in the Sun Valley area and the other one in the Spanish Springs area. The Sun Valley Middle School is actually going to be on BLM property. We do not own actually the property for either one of these schools yet, but we are very close. It's on the north end of Sun Valley. Spanish Springs will be in the Kylie North subdivision. So we're close on both of these. That's a very aggressive date, August of 2019, just a little over 2 years from now, when we actually don't own the land. But we are very optimistic that we're going to be able to get these done. The last one we're hoping be 1 year behind these 2 is in the Arrow Creek area, right across the street from Hunsberger Elementary School on Forest Service property. So it takes time with federal lands to acquire the property, but we're optimistic we're going to be able to meet these timelines. These are exciting for the community in another way. For Sun Valley, for many years, has gone to different elementary schools. They get split to different middle schools and different high schools. One of our goals at the Washoe County School District is to keep communities together. By keeping the Sun Valley community going to the same middle school and hopefully the same high school, it really means a lot, we believe, to the community. Same with the Arrow Creek area. One thing that's exciting about the middle schools, unlike our high schools where we're really starting from the beginning because we haven't built a high school and done the educational specifications for a high school in 20 years, we have a great place to start when it comes to middle schools. We're going to be updating our DePoli Middle School model. And if you've been to DePoli Middle School, this is a beautiful, beautiful school in our community. And I want to touch bases on that just for a second because it's more than just a beautiful school. It's actually, when you look at all of our middle schools and you actually look at the cost based on inflation rates, this is actually one of our least expensive middle schools to build. It's also one of our lowest costs to operate because we have a lot of sustainable features in this school, including a ground source heat exchange that actually heats and cools the school. It's also on the smallest footprint of any middle school that we own. This is exactly what we want to be building in the Washoe County School District. Now, we've reached out to the educators in this school. We've reached out to the building and the contractors, and we've reached out to the design teams on how can we build this school even better to meet the needs of the community. But this should absolutely be the standard that we want in the Washoe County School District. This is the kind of school where students want to go to school. This is where the community wants to have after-school programs and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and all those great uses. This is what we want to build throughout the Truckee Meadows. Elementary schools. We know that our 2 most overcrowded elementary schools at this time are Double Diamond and Brown in the South Meadows area. So we're working on opening our first elementary school in that area. Again, August 2019, this school will be open, which will relieve Double Diamond. The next elementary school will most likely be in the North Valley Spanish Springs area, and then we'll have 7 more elementary schools coming. Again, growth dependent, but we'll be building all of these schools and get off that multi-track year-round calendar and prepare for growth in our region. There's a schematic design of the new South Meadows area elementary school, again, that'll be in the Bella Vista subdivision. Kind of support services. I'm going to talk about the last 2 first. As we grow as a community for the 64,000 plus students that we have right now, we need to expand on our nutrition services and transportation services so that we can continue to transport and feed the students in the Washoe County School District. This is a critical need that we've had for quite some time. The first one I want to talk about really fast, the core school investment. The Public Schools Overcrowding Repair Needs Committee had the foresight to allocate $50 million to look at our core schools. These are basically the schools within the McCarran Ring. As we build these new schools, mostly in suburban areas, we don't want to forget about our critical schools in the urban core. As we design the new educational specifications for our new elementary, middle, and high schools, as we look at what these schools of the 21st century are going to look like, we want to take those specifications, once they're completed, go back to our existing core schools and make sure that every student in the Washoe County School District has that same classroom experience. That is our goal as a school district. We want to upgrade those schools, whether it's technology or just classroom feel, so that every student has that same opportunity. You should have this in front of you. This is actually just being shown to the community now. This is our 9-year plan. This actually shows specific school projects, and those that have the red star is our target opening dates. It shows the next planned projects, and then it kind of talks about future projects. You'll see as you go down the list, it starts saying elementary school number 4, 5, 6, 7, et cetera. That's because, again, it's very growth dependent. And at this time, I'd be remiss if I didn't really thank the Washoe County School District team, whether it's the capital projects team, communications, purchasing, our legal department. The amount of work that has been done in the last, not even 6 months since WC1 passed in November, has been nothing short of amazing. And I really look forward to getting these projects going, and I can tell you in the community that we are going as fast as we can to get these schools built, without ever neglecting, like I said, accountability and transparency with our community. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Etchart. Do we have any questions signed in? All right, we'll start.
Where do you want to start?
Wherever. Commissioner Hurd? Oh,
Quick question.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Quick question. The last slide you showed, this seems to be color-coded with blue and green and orange, and I just wondered if any of that was meaningful. The last slide that you showed.
Well, middle schools are in green, elementary
Okay.
schools are in orange. Basically, that's about it.
Thank you. Okay, I knew there was something to. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Hartung?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of questions, Mr. Etchart. I'll start with the easy ones first. What's the difference in footprint? You mentioned that with DePoli, there's a difference in footprint now. What was the footprint historically, and what is it now?
Well, one of the changes that we're seeing as a school district as we move into a more urban area is that land is harder to acquire. And so we're going to a more vertical nature, and I think you see that in most urban areas. So our new middle school is 2 stories. I think you'll see that in our new high schools, elementary, middle schools will all be 2 stories in nature. So that's probably the biggest difference right now as we're going away from being 1-story schools to probably 2-story in the future. I can't give you a square footage today of exactly what those are off the top of my head, but
So, well, I was more referring to not just the footprint of the school, but the land requirement itself. Is it smaller now because you're in a more urbanized area where in Spanish Springs, what is Shaw Middle School? What's the total land area of Shaw Middle School?
I don't have that numbers with me. I can tell you that when we look at elementary
10 acres,
schools,
15 acres?
when we look at elementary schools, we look at 8 to 10 acres,
Yes.
depending on street footage or frontage. If we have frontage on 3 sides, then we can usually use about an 8-acre site. If we only have it on 2 sides, we usually look for 10 acres.
Okay.
For middle schools, we start looking about 15 to 20 acres, but it's very dependent on the topography of the site. High schools, we normally look for 60 acres, but if it's a fantastically flat site, then we can usually get away with less than that. One of the things that we're really trying to do as a school district is work with all of you and make sure that as developers come in and meet with us, that we try to get great land for our schools. Basically, when a developer asks us where we should place a school, we almost look at the map and tell them to draw an X through it, and right in the middle is where we want our school. Because that does several things. One is it creates community schools where students can have more access to walk to school. It cuts down on transportation, which I know a lot of times neighborhoods don't like to have buses running around the neighborhood. It cuts down on our costs as far as operating by not having to have so many buses. So we really try to work with the development community, and I can say that on all these 15 schools that we're planning for, the development community has been fantastic. We have identified preliminary sites for all 15 of these new schools that we want to build. Now we're working toward acquiring that property. We realize this is imperative that we get this property locked up as soon as possible. So as the community grows, we know where these schools are going to be placed. Again, we have to be nimble enough to react to development. There may be developments that occur that we didn't really have on our radar.
Okay, so I thank you for that, but the question really is, For your middle school, do you still require 15 to 20 acres?
Correct.
Even though you're going vertical, so you still require the same amount of acreage?
Yeah, it just depends, again, on topography.
Okay. And then you talk about growth dependent, and I completely understand and respect that. I would look back a few years where you had McQueen and Galena both that were literally built almost in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I remember when McQueen was way the heck out. We were still going up off of 7th Street and shooting, and McQueen was there, and there was virtually nothing around it. Has that thought process completely gone away, and now you're going to look for more centralized locations?
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. Again, Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer, we don't build schools until schools are needed. We don't build schools until handbooks come in and development applications.
All of them are overcrowded, Mr. Etchart.
We don't build schools until we feel that they are needed and we see development applications coming in and we know that those needs are there. McQueen High School and Galena High School were built when development applications were in and we knew that development was coming. We don't build the schools and then think development's going to follow. We build the school when we know development is going to be occurring in those areas. McQueen's a great example of a site that we don't ever want to build again. It's basically built on the side of a ditch, on the side of a hill with a very small footprint, and now we're kind of landlocked and we have very limited ability to expand McQueen High School. So we would just, again, want to work with you to make sure that we're getting the best property for the Washoe County School District. But I can guarantee you, we don't build a school until we know that that development is going to be coming.
Okay, so once a tentative map is approved, or it doesn't have to be a final map?
I mean, and that,
because you, on your slide 6, you had a whole bunch of listings that were land use only. They're only land use, and while I understand that, when you have a land use designation change, that doesn't herald that a map is coming anytime soon, because it's obviously market dependent as well.
correct. This is where we have to work closely with our partners, both the Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County, and regional planning on how far along in the process is this. Regional planning has done a fantastic job of giving us some tools. They basically are giving us a list of when projects are actually underway, when they have their final maps approved, tentative maps, handbooks. We go through all that. We take what the regional consensus forecast growth numbers are, and then we spread them to where the highest likelihood of where these people are going to be living come from. Again, we're not going to build a school just based on a tentative map that hasn't been gone through the approval process, but at the same time, we have to plan ahead, because it takes years to build schools. And that can cause overcrowding. And I know we started seeing development applications being denied because of inadequate school capacities.
Exactly.
So this is a fine line for us to be able to build the schools when they're needed, so we're not overcrowding other schools, but at the same time, we're not going to be building schools until we know that development's going to be there. And it's been tricky. This last couple of years, I can tell you, our demographer, and even if you talk to EDON or any planner, this has been tough to forecast. What we saw last year was basically a 1.5% population growth, but only a 0.5% enrollment growth. There's been years where enrollment growth has lagged behind population growth, but there's other times when it has far exceeded population growth. And we all have thoughts on why that may be right now. The high cost of affordable housing, rental rates going up, some of the workers that are coming here that may not be bringing their families with them. All these things are being talked about by a community, but I think we can all see that affordable housing is an issue with us. What we've seen here in the past year is maybe a slowdown in that South Meadows area because of the cost of housing. We may be kind of pricing ourselves out of the kids market to a certain degree. We've seen higher growth in the North Valley's, Cold Springs, Spanish Springs area, where maybe housing is a little bit more affordable. So that's where we have to be reactive and say, where is the biggest need for us to build the next school? And it's not really always easy to forecast.
And one last question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The final thing is the Washoe County School District, while I understand the need to build schools, it's a very expensive endeavor. Are you looking at existing structures that could be used even temporarily for a 2 to 5 year time period while you do catch up with respect to getting the capacity in the district?
Thank you again for the question. Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer. We have looked at existing facilities. In fact, we looked at thousands of them. We actually went through the entire realtor list to see what's available in the community that we could possibly use as a school. This conversation was really being held why we were talking about WC1. They say, could we go into an existing use? Could we go into the old Target, or those kinds of structures? What we really found as a school district is by the time we go in there, we renovate that facility to meet educational needs, meet all the requirements and codes that we have to meet, it would cost us as much to go into that as it would to build a new school. And oftentimes, those old Targets and Kmarts and so forth are not located in the area that we really need them at. We're seeing, obviously sometimes suburban growth. Those old Kmarts and Lowe's and whatever are usually more in an urban area. They're also not located in the location we need as far as street frontage. Oftentimes those kinds of box stores are located on major arterials where we cannot place an elementary school. So we've looked at that option, but we don't really see it as being feasible as we move forward. I think our goal right now, especially with the passage of WC1, is to get these schools built and these new schools as fast as we can. And these schools need to be built to last. One thing I'll mention is these schools, we have schools over 100 years old. We don't tear down schools after they hit a certain age of 50 years or anything else. These schools need to be built to last, and that's what we plan on building in the Washoe County School District.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilwoman Breckness.
Thank you. And along the lines of my colleague, Mr. Hartung, would it hurt, though, to dual track your planning? And here's what leads me to that question is, I see on your first slide about growth and new development, and you mentioned two developments, Stonegate, 4,100 units. Stonegate is not even a complete application in the city of Reno. It has not had a planning commission hearing. It has not been before the Reno City Council. You've had conversations about land, set-asides, and so on, but really it's just a side conversation between you and a landowner who wants a development. And I can say very much the same comments about Sunny Hills Rancheros. But what I know in the last year in reviewing the Reno master plan work is that, surprisingly to me, 18% of Reno new units were within what our downtown master planning consultant team calls the influence area. It's basically, say McCarran to the north, Plum or so to the south. It's really just surrounding downtown. That's a big number to me. The number that is talked about regionally is about 25% in the McCarran Ring. I think with what we're seeing, we can be planning for 35% within the McCarran Ring, more or less within the McCarran Ring, in the next regional plan. And scenario planning is so big right now. And so could the school district do, for example, scenario planning of capturing a very quantifiable number like 35% within the McCarran Ring, and then these other ones where I think I appreciate your approach on these negotiations with the developers, and we have not done a good job in advocating ordinances or preparing ordinances that give you the land that you need. But maybe two-tiered in your approaches to say, well, if it goes this way, we would be looking here, and maybe it is a Lowe's, or if it's this way, we'll be going over here with these entitlements. And I guess, that would be an approach that maybe could capture some of these, these hardships you're feeling and trying to understand where the growth is going to be going. And so I would suggest maybe that you look at something like that, or have you thought about doing scenario planning?
Thank you, Councilwoman Breckness. We definitely are looking at those options. We are continuing to look at that. We were a major contributor and partner in the housing study that was completed by Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, looking at the different growth scenarios, whether it's going to be more of an urban infill scenario or more of the traditional suburban fill. So we are looking at those options. We are constantly looking for land, kind of more of the brownfield urban land that we can build upon in the inner core. I think one thing to stress, though, and just this is more for the community, I know you know this, is just the kind of the power the Washoe County School District has when it comes to new development. We have to reach out and talk to these developments that are coming in. We have to be prepared when they come to you. What we do is we have no power to say, deny or accept this development. We rely on you for that. Our only power under Nevada revised statutes is once a development comes in, is we can ask for a set-aside of land. And if these downtown developments actually you start seeing these infill projects, we may be doing that, asking for land. But that's the only power we have as a school district, is to ask for land after a development comes in and is ultimately approved or disapproved by you. We will continue looking at all scenarios. We would love to see more urban development as it occurs, and we would love to be able to expand, as we talked about, upgrading our existing downtown schools. That's not easy. A lot of our downtown schools are very limited when it comes to land, and expanding on those schools will not be easy. But again, as we turn into more of an urban area, we may be looking at more vertical schools. I found that recently Portland actually built their new administration buildings. I thought it was a fascinating project where they built the elementary schools in the ground floors. They have kind of a specialty middle school in the middle floors, and they have their admin building on the top floors. Could we see that as we become a more urban area? Possibly. So we're going to continue working with our partners who predict growth and actually look at how this growth is going to be allocated within the region, and then we'll react to that.
Councilman Dare.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hitchart, and thank you for your presentation. I know you put a lot of work and a lot of time into all this. One question I had is with the flooding. I saw one picture, and my question is with maintenance and some of the possible issues we have with snow melt and all that. Is there anything else we're anticipating is going to be a problem with schools, or are we seeing any growth in that maintenance because of the weather we've seen?
Thank you, Councilman Dare. We are actually in pretty good shape when it comes to river flooding with the Washoe County School District. Our main exposure is in the Sparks Industrial Park, where we have our transportation facility, which is the bigger building in that picture I showed that was in front of the ground shop that we're going to be, the maintenance shop that we're going to be relocating. Codes have changed over the years. Those buildings have flooded many times, but new codes say actually that when you have a flood event, everything 1 foot above where that flood level was has to now be built with waterproof construction, so basically steel studs and no longer using drywall. The cost of relocating or building that in the exact same site would have been more expensive than us moving the site, really. Our transportation building has already had those improvements done to it. It's already flooded twice this year. It may flood again. It's flooded many times in past years. We're very prepared for that. Actually, our transportation department does a fantastic job. You give them an hour and a half's notice, and they have all the buses out of there. They've got that building sandbagged and ready to go. So I don't envision at this time that we're going to be moving our transportation department until our big plan can hopefully happen is that we start acquiring more land for our transportation facilities. I would love to ultimately move transportation away from that site. But that's a very valuable site to us. And again, we can move our buses and get everything prepared in a very short notice. The other one that's at risk a little bit is our Nutrition Services Central Kitchen, which is on Spice Island Drive. It backs up to the river. But thankfully, we've never had water actually enter our facility. Our elementary schools, middle schools, high schools are actually in pretty good shape, except for we're more prone to the ditch flooding, as everybody else in the community is. In this last events, we sandbagged many schools, and thankfully, no water got into any of our schools. But we're going to continue working toward a master plan to hopefully get out of that. But the City of Sparks has been a great partner in that. As that North Truckee drain realignment happens, I think it's going to help us, too, in that Sparks Industrial Park.
And then one last question. So being on the health board, one thing we know with the mosquito coming out in the Cold Spring, Lemon Valley area, I was just there, and you actually have water butting up to a school right there, and they're anticipating some major mosquito issues, and I could imagine the school having some issues there. I just, probably an encouragement, maybe you already know this, but if that's moving forward, making sure that, is that, I don't know if that's part of a maintenance issue, or is that just a school thing, but either way, mitigating some of those problems as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll look into that for sure.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, I do have Mr. Sam Dene signed in for a public comment.
Sam Dene, the philanthropic DNA of Reno government, the heart, soul, body, and mind of Reno government. And Sam, that's me. I'm living proof that the vote stealers, the vote riggers are in control, because if there was an honest vote, I would be on that side. No, I would be further. I would be the governor by now, long ago. As I segue into the point that I told you before that I am the driving force for 92% of the good things about Reno. I was a driving force that got this tax bond, they call it $800 million tax bond. Really, it's an infinite tax bond. It never ends. At any rate, I was a driving force. You can ask Colonel Kazmierski, the boss down there at EDON. He pleaded with me, begged me to please to please speak in favor of this tax bond, this tax thing, and I agreed with him. Motherhood, apple pie, schools for the children. How do you not speak in favor of that? Think about it. On the other hand, I did not realize that the people, the entities, the businesses that are going to benefit from this the most by far, over there on the other side of the hill in Story County, Virginia City, they're doing nothing. They're doing nothing to help this situation. Not a thing. Why don't you bureaucrats, why don't you brilliant bureaucrats go down to the governor and say, Governor, we want Story County. You can prove what the way they're exacerbating an already horrible situation. Why don't you go down to the governor? You're smart people, you're powerful people, and order the governor, order the legislature to make those people over in Story County pay their fair share. Instead, guess what? It's double jeopardy. Instead of them paying their fair share, they're getting dozens and dozens of millions of dollars of tax dollars. $43 million on September 4th, 2014. A check given to Lance Gilman and Don Roger Norman. $43 million, and then they're building them a $150 million freeway. It's just incongruous that these kind of things can be happening, and we're stepping here, and I'm not saying stepping on pea ants, but you're really missing the big picture. They are the ones benefiting from this massive potential growth, and yet we, the poor citizens here, are paying the bill. Taxes here, taxes there. And by the way, I applaud Colonel Church's patriotic efforts to try to straighten this mess out too, along with me. Colonel Church shows up with more of a sniper rifle. I show up at these meetings with a shotgun. I have thousands of different issues I have to cover. He finds an issue and he carries that issue, so he didn't ask me to say that. At any rate, I think you see what I'm saying. The Story County people are causing this problem, and you're neglecting them totally, stepping on pea ants. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dene.
Thank you over there. Thank you over there.
Mr. Jeff Church.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning, Jeff Church. I do run a website, renotaxrevolt.com. In 3 minutes, I can't possibly rebut or address every issue that Mr. Pete Eckhart covered, but let me cover a few things. First of all, to be clear, there is ongoing litigation over WC1. It's ongoing and more is planned. My attorney wanted to file something Friday, so we'd have it today, but I want to make sure we get it exactly right. Everybody, especially those of you here that back WC1, should be very concerned about possible waste, fraud, and abuse in spending at Washoe County School District capital funds. I believe laws were broken. Funds may have been misappropriated and misappropriatedly dedicated. Salaries, as they said, couldn't be supplanted, possibly have been supplanted. Now, what will you all say if you all ignore me? I speak my 3 minutes, I go my way, and it turns out I'm right. There's going to be a lot of yolk on people's faces. I ask you to Google the debacle in Bell, California that was ignored for too long. What we really need is in-depth, independent oversight for WC1 spending. This alleged oversight committee that meets once or twice a year for 2 hours to look at a $300 million budget, you call that oversight? Many of you were on that committee. You've got other things. You can't possibly look at that. Washoe County School District, that he didn't mention, has a $40 million deficit. Even former trustee Rosenberg said he had no inkling of the shortfall. Why was this information given out by Washoe County School District? Why did CFO Szynski receive pay raises of $57,000 in just 5 years as Washoe County School District floundered? Why did his boss, COO Pete Eckhart, receive over $82,000 in raises in just 4 years? Meanwhile, Superintendent Davis went from $2,200,000 to $360,000 in 2016. What raise did they get in 2017? These individuals either had to know about the $40 million deficit while they took their massive pay raises, or they are the most incompetent CFO, COO, and superintendent in memory. Nothing I see from Washoe County gave any hint of the impending crisis. They said everything was good. Quote, the new report demonstrate WCSD's prudent fiscal policies, end quote. You need to have oversight of this. You need to have independent oversight, not a committee that meets once or twice, and you need to clean house. I'm going to be clear. Superintendent Davis, COO Eckhart, and CFO Szynski must go. This is a no-brainer. I would be more than happy to talk to the district attorney and go over everything I have to have him look into this for any kind of misfeasance. And so again, cut the bloated administration, cut the salaries, and support my application to be on that oversight committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Church.
Mr. Church, if I can have your overhead, please, for the record. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other speakers for public comment, we'll bring it back to the board, and we will move on to our next item, which is agenda item 7. So, we are on, so thank you very much. We are on to this agenda item is the presentation and discussion on the proposed Wild Creek project located at the current Wild Creek Golf Course location. So I'm going to start us off this morning with this presentation. First and foremost, I will lay out kind of where we're going to go with the presentation. Sharing Wild Creek with the community. We will kind of go through, obviously we're going to outline who our stakeholders are in this project, what the project really looks like, and the overview of that project, the financing and the framework of that, and then along with the project timeline, and then we will wrap that up with questions. So next, we would like to point out that we, here in the community, every entity here within Washoe County is a participant in this endeavor for Wild Creek Golf Course. And so Washoe County, obviously, Washoe County School District being a major portion of that, the City of Reno and the City of Sparks, and Reno Sparks Convention and Visitor Authority all have come together to collaborate on the future of the Wild Creek Golf Course High School. So with that, I will turn the project over to Mr. Pete Etchart. Mr. Etchart.
Thank you, Chairman Lucy. Again, Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer, and as Chairman Lucy said, this truly is a regional project. When we first looked at this site, we knew that this was located in the City of Sparks. We known it was owned by Washoe County. The golf course is actually run by the RSCVA, and the majority of the students come from the City of Reno. So this truly is a regional project, and there's going to be a lot of other partners that be involved with this. Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, obviously NDOT, the Airport Authority, RTC, and then we're going to rely obviously on our private partners in the AGC to really make this a successful project. So we're going to talk today about the project overview, and I want to stress at this time that the project layout is conceptual in nature. The configuration of the various projects and uses that you'll be seeing will definitely change as we proceed further with planning and engineering. I really want to thank the Wood Rogers team for really creating this master plan in such short order, and I think it really is special, and we're going to be kind of talking about all these different elements. Now we're going to start off with the definite uses that we see at this site, and those definite uses, the first and foremost that we're so excited about as the Washoe County School District is the high school at Wild Creek. But really, when we talk about this, we want to talk about two projects. It's not only the high school at Wild Creek, it's also that gives us the opportunity to redevelop and repurpose the Hug High School campus and making a career and technical academy at Hug. So whenever we talk about one project, we want to talk about both because they really are tied together. Now, the high school at Wild Creek will relieve overcrowding in our northern high schools through the changes in our current attendance zones. We instantly gain 1,000 seats. Currently, Hug High School has about 1,400 students. This new Wild Creek High School, we envision being around 2,500 students. So we instantly gain 1,000 seats of high school capacity to deal with our current overcrowding and growth that is coming. Again, the high school at Wild Creek, though, really importantly provides the ability for Washoe County School District to renovate and repurpose the existing Hug High School campus. Ultimately, that school could also have a capacity of about 1,400 students in the career and technical education. The timelines, and we're going to talk more about timelines here in a minute, but we have a target date for opening that new high school at Wild Creek in August of 2021, and then reopening the Career and Technical Academy at HUG in August of 2022. Now, I want to stress, though, from a communication standpoint, that the name Wild Creek and the name HUG, those denote the location and not the final names. We have a board policy committee on school naming. Just today, it went out live for the community to hopefully get volunteers to be on this school naming committee as we really talk about what the names of these new schools are going to be. So we'll start off with the high school at Wild Creek. Whoops. So we have now selected an architectural design team that's going to be made up of the Cunningham Group, which is a national and international design team that has a specialty in designing schools. They've done this all over the world, and they have teamed with local partner H&K Architects. That is our design team to design this high school of the 21st century. We start off with the educational specifications. That's basically saying what goes into a high school. That goes into schematic design and ultimately final design. We've also reached out to the community as well as our educators and design professionals to actually be part of this design process. So we've had a lot of notices in the paper asking for volunteers from the community to come and help us in this endeavor. Now, the high school that's shown on the plan in front of you, that may not be the final location, and I can guarantee you it's not the final shape of what it's going to look like. Basically, what we've done is taken the existing North Valley, Spanish Springs high schools, which were the two latest ones, added about 20% onto the size of those and put a pad onto the plan. So we don't know what the final school will look like, but we should be able to fit within that. We also don't know if that's the final location, but it will be pretty much located near McCarran. One of the special features of the high school itself is we are looking at having an expanded auditorium that can also double as a boardroom. Anybody that's been to our administration building and been to a board meeting realizes that we really don't have a boardroom. We have numerous overflow rooms. It's impossible to keep the entire community being able to go into the auditorium at one time. So we're really looking forward to hopefully that being an element of this, which will also be a benefit to the community as well as to the school district. Other than that, we have the basic features of the parking, the baseball, softball fields, football stadium. We have all the different elements that go into a high school. Again, what's really exciting, and maybe one of the most exciting projects to me, is actually the renovation and repurposing of the existing HUG High School. Now, there's been a lot of past studies that have been done basically on how to renovate HUG High School, and we're going to look at all of these options. The Public Schools Overcrowding Repair Needs Committee allocated funds directly for this use of repurposing and really renovating the existing HUG High School. And really what it is, it's a continuation of the great work that's already being done at HUG. They already have a Health and Human Services Academy. They have programs in sports medicine, commercial baking, human development. So it's really an expansion upon that great work. The bottom line is this provides more opportunities for our students in the Washoe County School District. Dr. Dana Ryan, who's the head of our career and technical education, is going to be looking and working with her partners in the community to really look at what are the careers and employment opportunities for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and how can we be part of that workforce development for these amazing companies that are coming to the Truckee Meadows. This is really exciting for us. This is going to work in concert, is how we envision it, working with our Career and Technical Academy, the Academy of Arts, Careers and Technology, or AACT, if you've been to that facility. It serves a great purpose in our community. It's a very popular program. There's always a waiting list of students who want to go to AACT. It's interesting that the majority of the students that go there actually come from the North Valleys. So actually having this full-size comprehensive Career and Technical Academy at the HUG High School campus is very exciting for us. We envision AACT and this new Career and Technical Academy at HUG really working in concert together, whether it's in programs or hopefully transportation. Right now, we transport students from throughout the Truckee Meadows to AACT. We hope to add this HUG High School onto those routes. And I threw a picture of sports on there because I think it's an important thing to mention. One of the drawbacks we've had at AACT is a student says, I may want to go there, I really like to go there, but I really want to play volleyball or softball or whatever. By having fields already at the HUG High School campus, we envision that we'll be able to offer, hopefully, sports for those career and technical students who really want a career and technical education, but still want to participate in those extracurricular activities such as sports. So we're really excited about what HUG can become.
Mr. Chair and members of our collective bodies today. John Slaughter, Washington County Manager, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Wild Creek, which obviously in this project is sort of the linchpin. The property at Wild Creek is the linchpin in moving forward on this project. Washoe County has been aware for a number of years. RCVA is interested in transitioning out of golf operations at Wild Creek. So the obvious question is, what about golf? Where does golf lay in this proposed project? We're going to talk about a specific timeline towards the end of the presentation, but I just wanted to interject and talk a little bit about that. So for the short term, golf operations will continue as is through 2018, and that's based on the proposed timeline that we'll talk about in just a few minutes. With a transition to Washoe County from RCVA, again, the management leadership at RCVA, myself, and others at Washoe County have been in discussions about what that would look like, but Washoe County would transition golf operations beginning in summer of 2017. That's this summer. So for the long term, the discussions have been with the Wild Creek project, the overall project as we talk about it, the high school, the other parts of the other amenities that are in the project. There is a place for golf at Wild Creek in this project. What that specifically looks like, again, as Pete mentioned, this is very conceptual. Discussions have not progressed much further than golf will be there, probably in the form of a 9-hole course. We will be talking extensively. This is just the beginning of that process of talking about what that looks like, what that portion of the project looks like. So what we are committed to is that golf will continue in some form, and that we are just beginning that process of community input as to what that looks like. Obviously, there are a lot of options. Youth golf is something that's certainly being discussed in the community, and the need for that. The location next to a high school is intriguing. We know that there's a lack of courses for high school golf to practice on. We know that there are other communities who have actually brought in some sort of curriculum related to golf and golf course operations into high schools. So all options that we could be looking at, and as I mentioned, we're looking for a long-term discussion with the community about the future of golf at Wild Creek.
So now we're going to talk actually about some of the potential community benefit projects that could be done on this site. And this really, we want to really stress, this is kind of like a blank slate right now. This is like a palette that can be filled with these potential projects. And these projects are to get the community thinking and show potential projects that are either needed or could be beneficial to our community. Now, there could be a lot of others. We're just showing a list here. There's some that have come up even since this list was created, is like, how about a skateboard park? We really look forward to some of the community input on what the uses could be besides what we talked about, the high school and golf at this site. So we'll talk about some of these potential community uses just to kind of get everybody thinking. First one is a possible athletic team training facility. Now what we're showing, if you look at our high school site, we have a dedicated practice field or fields, a field house, and a parking lot that could be used by an athletic team that wants to use this site as a training facility. These could also be used by the community for tournaments, etc. These would be easy projects for us to phase in or take out of the plan as we move forward as we build this school, but just a potential use. Again, pre-kindergarten is a use that really has a huge community need, and the location of this site near the high schools, near the community college, near the University of Nevada would be just a fantastic site for a pre-kindergarten facility, which we have a major need for in the Washoe County School District. Another one is a community center that could be used for after school and other community programs. I think this would be a fantastic location for that. And Washoe County is also severely limited, as we all know, in swimming facilities, both for collegiate teams, high school teams, club teams, both for training and for regional competitions. I think, I hear many times from the swim moms and dads that are always going over the hill the other way for regional tournaments. We really don't have a 50-meter pool facility in this community. Fernley, Carson City, Douglas County all have those kinds of facilities. We do not in Washoe County. One we're looking at is, and I think this really, we would want to see this happen, is a linear park, kind of on the west side of the project. We're showing a linear park with an outdoor learning center, which would be a fantastic use for us as a school district. We're also showing, it's kind of hard to see on the map, that little brown line going around the school facility is a 1.5-mile walking trail. Could be a par fitness course. There's other uses that could be, but really opening up this site to the community. So again, we're just looking at all options. We look forward to hearing what the community may come up with as far as other potential uses for this site. Now, as John talked about, we want to talk about the financing framework. Basically, how it would work, and as we envision it at this time, is that Washoe County School District would purchase the property for the high school from Washoe County. And then in concept, Washoe County would invest those proceeds back into the Wild Creek project. Now, this could have a lot of different aspects to it. We have not delineated the property yet. We don't know how many acres it's going to be. We haven't done any appraisals, so we don't know exactly what the cost will be. But we also know that it's going to take some money to get the golf course in the condition as it's repurposed kind of into a 9-hole or whatever that ends up being. Whether it's cart paths, the irrigation system, the clubhouse, the cart barns, there's going to be improvements that need to be done. There could also be other things that need to be done for that site. It could be money that's put into some of these community benefit projects. We don't know at this time. We're just beginning this process, but we want to at least get in front of you kind of what the financial framework that we envision is for this property. Now, I want to stress this is a fantastic location, and from the very beginning, the Washoe County School District was so excited about the opportunity to possibly build a high school at this site. It is the perfect location based on access and just location. Obviously, we know there's a lot of challenges to this site. We have water, we have the affluent agreement with the city of Sparks that we'll be looking at. We know the soils in this area of town aren't the best. We've got traffic issues. We've already met with the airport authority in regards to, the flight path. There's numerous other challenges. We have a dam that's located above the property. We have to make sure that is accounted for. There's sewer issues. All these things, though, we feel are surmountable. We can deal with all these issues. It's obviously, when we talk about an urban infill project, it's always more challenging than when you're building on virgin ground someplace. But this is a perfect site. We're very excited about this. The anticipated project timeline. Here are some key dates just for you to think about. Now, we put on here, this has been going so fast, it's only been a month since we've really got permission to kind of go forward with this project. So we've been going really rapidly. August of 2017 in our critical path shows us when we were going to have the property transferred to the Washoe County School District. But honestly, as we've looked more into this, we don't need the property at that time because we won't be breaking ground on the high school until December of 2018. So as John Slaughter said, we really envision the golf course staying in its current configuration and use for the next 2 years. What we really need starting in August of 2017 is access onto the course to do our work, to do that investigations, engineering, geotechnical analysis, so forth. But I think we can work with the county as far as getting that access, and maybe that property stays in Washoe County's hands till a future date. We will work on that. But December 2018 is our critical path date to actually break ground on this high school. Opening this school in August of 2021 is an ambitious schedule. We have sat down with our design team, we've sat down with local contractors to kind of go through the schedule, and they all agree that is as fast as we could possibly get this school built. So some other key dates. In June of 2021, when the last student walks out of Hug High School for that calendar year, the remodel of Hug High School will begin. That basically provides us 14 months to repurpose and renovate that existing Hug High School campus so that it can open again in August of 2022. So June 2021, we start the remodel process. August of that year, the new high school at Wild Creek will open. And then a year later, the Career and Technical Academy at Hug High School will open. So those are the key dates that are target dates that we're working toward. And with that, we'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Councilwoman Bybee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Pete, the question I had, if there is a possible transfer of property, you said it doesn't have to happen in August 2017, but if it does, Explain to me why the breaking ground would not happen for a year and a half from now, December 2018. If we could get the property sooner, why would we not break ground sooner than that? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Bybee. The main reason for that we won't be breaking ground until December of 2018 is really the design process. Unlike the middle schools where we had the Poley Middle School as a basis of design to go forward and really kind of update those plans, high schools we are starting from scratch. And right now, our design team was just selected. They are now going out for members, like I said, of the community and the education professionals to be part of that design process. We have not designed and done that process for over 20 years. So it's been a long time since we've actually designed a high school. A lot has changed in education in that time frame. So going out to the community, going out to make sure we're building a high school that's going to last is, again, this school is going to be there for a long time. So we want to make sure we build it right. So we go through the educational specification process, then we go into schematic design, we go into final design, and then we go to construction. It unfortunately takes that amount of time to design this school of the 21st century. So that's really why we won't be breaking ground until December of 2018.
Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several questions. Let me start with Mr. Manager.
Yes.
Mr. Slaughter, would you we need to get a couple of things on the record. Talk about the potential deed restrictions on that property. Are there any that it has to go back to the original owner, as is typical when things are donated to Washoe County?
Right. Mr. Chair, John Slaughter for the record. And if I get too far astray, I'll ask for assistance from legal counsel. My understanding is that there are no restrictions of that nature. There is some BLM property that's related to this property, and there's some restrictions on the use of those. Those are primarily to the northern end of the property, so I don't think it's going to, the indication is it's not going to impact the property and the potential use as high school and other community facilities. But my understanding is that the deed restrictions that you speak of don't exist on the property.
So we can sell the
Correct.
property without any deed restrictions. So how would we reinvest the proceeds from that? That's, I mean, that has
Right.
been brought up. What would that look like?
Right, and that's, again, the concepts of what would be on the property. Those are concepts. In addition, in addition to a golf course. So certainly there may be a need for some reconfiguration of golf holes, a driving range, those sorts of things. Again, conceptually, the idea would be that the proceeds that are received on the sale of the property would go into the county's general fund and be identified specifically for that purpose,
Okay.
for those purposes.
Okay.
Again, conceptually, whatever the various, as we talk to the community, what the desires of the community, as we identify what those features are.
So the reinvestment would be in recreational facilities is the suggestion?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I wanted to, I'm trying to make sure that we have most of this stuff on the record. And then, Mr. Etchart, I have just a couple of questions for you. Hug High School, what's going to happen with the sports fields? Are they going to be maintained, or would you extend facilities out into those sports fields? I saw that you had a picture of somebody playing basketball, but that's indoor stuff. So because Wild Creek would have this extensive outdoor sports facility, would you repurpose the land at Hug?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Hartung. We do envision utilizing those fields. We want to have sports at Hug and the Career and Technical Academy, whether it's the indoor basketball or outdoor potentially. We don't know what the sports are going to be.
Okay.
That's going to be developed, whether it's baseball or football or who knows. We're going to take a look at all that. We also see a need for those fields because one of the thoughts in that, there's a lot of thoughts. We're going to really define what kind of programs are going to be at Hug, but one of the ones that's been talked about by the community is actually in the public safety arena, whether it's police, fire. There's a very strong ROTC program at Hug High School. So even for those types of uses, the football field is incredibly valuable for all those types of programs. So we're going to be looking at everything. As I said, Dr. Dana Ryan's going to be really looking at the programs for the next 5, 10, 20 years and how sports can be part of that and how those fields actually tie in even to academic programs.
Okay. And then I noticed that you had, traffic issues. I'm terribly concerned. Sullivan is a two-lane road. You've got a major facility on a two-lane road. That's obviously going to have to be expanded. The geometry of the intersection at McCarran and Sullivan is going to have to look completely different. I have noticed in the last couple of days, taking notice intentionally, that the setbacks, there does seem to be quite a bit of right-of-way on the north side of McCarran, so that gives you some options. But on the south side of McCarran, there are none. So that's kind of a tough one right there, because that's essentially where Ben's is and those facilities. So the geometry of that whole area in terms of traffic is of great concern. And who foots that bill? That's is it RTC? Is it NDOT? Is it Washington County School District? How will that be entered into?
Well, one thing, again, thank you for the question, is that it kind of reminds me of saying is one of the reasons, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here today, because this meeting was really put together quickly to make sure that we were able to come in front of you and really talk about these exciting projects. And one of the reasons for that is we want to have those conversations, obviously with NDOT and the RTC, but we also wanted to make sure that, we controlled the message of talking about this incredible project and not being reactive as others come to us about, are you going to be taking Wild Creek, or what are you going to be doing? So now that this has become public and everybody knows this project's happening, we're going to start having all those discussions with all those agencies. We haven't even started talking about traffic except for very, very preliminary discussions with the city of Sparks and others in regards to this project's happening. We have reached out to NDOT, we'll reach out to RTC, we'll start having that. Having a high school and an arterial is where we actually want them. Unlike an elementary school where we're restricted by code to have an elementary school and an arterial, you don't want speed zones, anymore on a major arterial. High schools are good to be on these kinds of roads. That's where we actually want them, because you don't want that kind of traffic going through a residential neighborhood. So we think, again, from a traffic standpoint, this is a great location, but we obviously have to look at all the traffic warrants and whether there's a signal needed or all those elements.
Oh yeah, this could be a very interesting one, the traffic backing up. And then the final one, as you're well aware, on both east and west sides of Wild Creek, there's huge issues with expansive clay. So I'll be interested to see what the geotechnical survey brings back and what the soil samples bring back with a natatorium. You've got a swimming pool and you find out that you didn't do everything 100% correctly, and now that thing's leaking. I'm just worried about the soils around there. It's a long time well-known issue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartine. Councilman Lawson.
Ed Lawson here, and I want to talk about this from our CVA standpoint, sitting on the board. I have several board members that approached me after the meeting last week with their concern about this. Many of them didn't know about it. Many of them didn't have any clue about it. Because I've been involved with it for years, I had more of an idea. But the property is obviously titled to Washoe County. How's the property titled under the Reno Sparks Convention Center? I believe it's titled to the county also, so we'll have the lawyers look this up. Is that Mr. Liparelli? So let me ask you a question. What's to prevent Washoe County from 20 years from now, when the convention center's paid off, to come in and say, you know what, we want to build a school there, or we want to build a technical center, we want to do this, and you're out, RSCVA, and you just spent all that money on all those improvements, and you built this business. What's to prevent that? Because I'm sure somewhere back in the past, when it was given to the RSCVA to run, and by the way, we lose about $350,000 a year as the RSCVA running that golf course, that it would always be a golf course. So there's a lot of questions. If we use the gentleman who talked about golf, 9 holes at $500,000 a piece, that's $4.5 million. There's 500 acre-feet of water that I happened to talk to a tech company about last week. Then they're very interested in. That value is somewhere between $3.5 and $5 million. That can be sold off. Then they want that today. So we're giving away a property, or RCVA obviously has no choice in this, but the county, in essence, gets a $4 million, if we want to use a round number, profit in water value, and they get the land, and the school district And by the way, it was appraised a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, and it's worth about $3 million as a golf course and about $10 million as a development. So it has been appraised. I'm sure that just needs to be updated. And then the last question, and I'm not seeing anyone jump up to answer these because these are real hard questions, aren't they? Who's going to take the loss for the next year and a half while the county's waiting to transfer the land over, while it's being run as a golf course? Because the RSCVA is losing, it'll be somewhere around $400,000, $450,000 over the next year and a half. And where does the RSCVA's profit come into this for the development and the improvements that we made to the land as the RSCVA?
Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Mr. Chair, I'll take a stab at a few of those questions and then see where we get. And I'm not sure which property, you're talking about the convention center on South Virginia, or are you talking about the Livestock Event Center?
No, the convention center on South Virginia.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with the ownership of that particular property.
I think Mr. Liparelli agreed with me. It's titled to the county.
Mr. Chairman and board members, there was a time in history when convention and visitors authorities were not permitted to own real property. So the arrangement in those days was for the underlying land to be owned by the county, and the facilities and the improvements that are made on that land were done by the convention and visitors authority. So any transaction involving, I'll just say, RSCVA land necessarily involves cooperation between the county and the RSCVA. The questions you asked about the profits, the losses, the deal terms are all good questions, and they have to be worked out, but they couldn't even begin to talk about those until you get this meeting together where all these boards gave the thumbs up to the concept. Now we go back and we start working on those questions. And there's water rights, effluent agreements, title issues.
Well, I forgot to mention that Sparks is owed about $1.5 million too.
Sparks is at the table. That's for sure.
There's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm getting a feeling of Obamacare. Pass it, and then we'll figure it out. And I don't like that feeling at all. So let's have a little more planning, and I think we should get this group back together. If I didn't raise enough questions, I have more. But I think there's a lot of questions that needs to be answered. And to say we're going to open a high school in 2021 when you haven't even talked to the RSCVA board members, that board hasn't voted on it, the board hasn't taken a position, I think is disingenuous.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Vice Mayor Jordan.
Thank you. My question is back to the design and the architecture and potential engineering for each school. Is the concept that you, for each elementary, middle, and high school, that you design and engineer it once with some minor variations so that you're not having to go back and pay to have it redesigned, re-engineered? Is that what the thought is?
Thank you, Councilwoman Jordan. That is correct. But we're trying to make one change now compared to in the past. One thing has been kind of referred to as kind of a kit of parts, especially for the high schools, that when we build this new high school, you're not trying to adapt the land to the school as much as you can adapt sometimes the school to the land. So we need to have the same elements of the school, but we can hopefully rearrange them to fit the property. When you've seen some of our previous high schools, when you had one set designed and you're going to put that on that site no matter what, it costs a lot of money in development cost to actually make that property fit that. So we're looking, though, at absolutely reproducing the same elementary school, middle school, and high school, but possibly you might see the parts moved around a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentation, really appreciate it. I'm one of those that this is a new idea to me, that I haven't been in the previous discussions. So I assume today, in the next agenda item, you're going to be asking for some kind of approval for a letter of intent. So is that what you're going to be looking for us, is to go forward and have further public meetings about the concept?
and maybe others may want to join in on this, but absolutely, the letter of intent is just saying this is a good thing for us to pursue and look at. There's actually absolutely no teeth to that as far as saying committing you to anything for the long term and saying you have to do this or anything else. It's just saying that we're all going to work together to look at this conceptual plan and try to make this a reality. You're right, we have to get started. It's an ambitious timeline to get that school open in August of 2021. So we've got to get going right now.
Okay.
We need that school built, but at the same time, we do have time to reach out to all of you and work through all the issues that have been brought up today.
So 2 more questions. So the alternative to this, before this site was picked or this idea was hatched, where were you thinking about locating this school?
I'll be honest, we didn't really have a great plan B.
Okay.
This was the site that was kind of identified at the very beginning.
Way back before WC1, sort of why you were doing the big picture.
Correct.
Okay. And then lastly, or second to last, I guess, first, I just want to commend you for the big thinking. You know, if this is going to be the place, and I say if, because again, no decisions have been made whatsoever, I like the thinking about the site planning, and whether it's the auditorium, which has been a big need for you all, whether it's, you know, right now you have Reno High School is the closest thing, to my knowledge, of a big auditorium. We've been having a number of meetings there, so I got acquainted with it recently. This is a nice size auditorium, but I imagine you'd want it even bigger than this audience seating here. The pool, a huge need. We have needed that tremendously, discussed it a lot at City of Reno. So my question on that one, it seems like a real need. Are you envisioning sort of a joint ownership of this, or would that be funded as part of the school, or an ancillary joint funding, joint ownership? I just wondered if, since you've done some big picture conceptual thinking, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't really have an answer yet to how the framework would work as far as the oversight of it. We have had meetings. We talked to the City of Reno, which I know you had some plans for, saying we could possibly build one in Reno. I've had conversations with the University of Nevada. Obviously, they're very interested in having, whether it's in Reno or on this site, having a 50-meter pool facility, because right now they can't even do a Mountain West tournament swim meet at the university because we don't have a 50-meter pool. So I think everybody agrees in the community there's a need. We also know that swimming pools, the operation of swimming pools isn't always a moneymaker, that's for sure. So that's an issue that we're going to have to look at, and what the ownership could be and what the
Well, and there's a range from having a pool, and even an outdoor pool, to an aquatic center. You know, there's an extreme range here of, you know, thousands to 100,000. So, you know, I think that's the kind of thing that has to be discussed, as well as what exactly are you talking about. It seemed like the university really moved forward with having an aquatic center as well. So, you know, just however that comes out, I hope all of this gets blended into the thinking, because you're also talking about other outdoor type features that could have community appeal that might obviate the need to build another kind of regional park with those features. And then I do like the idea of it near the golf course. I know that when we put in the Southeast Connector, they lost an 18-hole golf course there, which is, you know, we're in a process of debating what should happen to that site. Should it remain a 9-hole golf course? Should it become more of a wilderness area or wildlands type area? So, you know, it's just something to look at regionally, big picture, about the impact to golf as well. So anyway, I appreciate the presentation today. I don't know what the flight path issues are. You know, I don't know if this is straight over the flight path or if there are changes that could be made. So I'm sure you'll look through it all, but I appreciate the presentation today and just the big thinking, you know, solving many problems with one place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Duro. Councilman McKenzie, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Breckus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And did we look at, you kind of indicated that this was just sort of fell in as the site that you were going to concentrate on, but have you looked at the availability of any other sites for this school?
We have throughout the community, and thank you for the question, Councilman McKenzie. We've looked at numerous sites, and I'm not saying there's no other sites in that area that couldn't possibly work. We met with the University of Nevada on possible land they would have that's maybe closer toward Truckee Meadows Community College, but again, you're running into very steep grades and probably the cost and just the location. This site, because of the locality, because of the traffic network that's available to us here, this really became just a fantastic site. As we know, in an urban area, trying to find 40, 60 acres is really difficult. And especially we, as a school district, really don't want to go into any kind of eminent domain type issues. That's not where we want to go. But when you start building those urban schools, it is difficult. And so this site just really kind of was perfect. This actually came about originally when the Cunningham group, who's going to be one of our design team on this, came in and really looked at kind of like a third eye coming in, looking at our school district and our needs. They kind of identified this site. And we looked at this and said, that's fantastic. And so we continue to look for all sites. That's, I guess, the best I can really answer that. But this is really the one that really shone above the others.
So how many of the kids in the vicinity of Wild Creek currently go to Hug?
I don't have the exact attendance boundary, but I can tell you that all the students we envision that currently go to Hug would probably be going to this new high school at Wild Creek. And we also envision that the Sun Valley community would probably have those students, that a lot of them go to Spanish Springs right now, would probably be going to this new high school at Wild Creek. So we're looking at trying to, again, try to keep that Sun Valley community together. And also you could see attendance from as far away as possibly Reed, possibly Sparks, possibly McQueen, definitely Spanish Springs, that could be coming to this school. We are constantly looking at our attendance boundaries for when we bring these new schools online. That's a difficult subject because we have to really be dependent on growth again and as new development happens.
So the majority of kids that are currently going to Hug are going to have to, that currently walk to school, are going to have to be bused to school.
Possibly. We don't know the attendance boundaries. Like I said, I don't know exactly the distance from, apologize, from the existing Hug campus to this. Right now, our walk zones, just so everybody's clear, is 1 mile for elementary, it's 2 miles for middle schools, it's 3 miles for high schools. That is our walk zone for our schools.
Yeah. Well, I know that the attack on public golf facilities within this community has been overwhelming over the last few years. We've lost Northgate, Rosewood, Brookside, and this will be another public golf course. It's getting to where the middle class and the seniors are not, they're not finding a place to golf anymore because the access to public golf is so limited that getting a tee time can be a major impact. And I like to look at all the amenities you put on here as things that are trying to convince the community that this is going to be better for the community than this area is a golf course. But if you put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig, and you're destroying a public golf facility that has been in a long fight to stay in this community as a public golf facility. And to think that that would be your first choice, to take an amenity away from the community rather than your last choice where there's nothing else that we could build to, is, to me, kind of a backwards way of looking at moving forward. I support building new schools, and I support building the schools for the students, and I support these kids and getting a good education, but I don't support it at the cost of the rest of the community.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Councilwoman Breckus.
Yeah, excuse me. I want to just state that I appreciate Mr. Lawson's comments about the role of the RSCVA as a member. I'm not on that board, but I see that it operates under a statute that's the Fair and Recreation Board, and we don't have the fair any longer. And I am hoping maybe this discussion will get to a point of what's the recreation role of the RSCVA. That's a question that I always have. And as they shed these recreational assets, I'm wondering really what is the RSCVA's role in recreation. So I think that could be the starting point for that discussion. On the golf, I take a different view than my colleague Mr. McKenzie. When we had to shut down Brookside, we had the preeminent golf expert in the country, so he was said, to explain to us to look at golf facilities in this area. And I have hesitations, and I mentioned this among the Reno City Council at our last meeting, that if we're moving forward with a new course and Washoe County's taking on a new course, maybe we need to work in tandem and see if where we're at on the industry. And I would ask our Reno City staff to find that study again from 2013. I think it's still valid, and get a copy of it to Mr. Slaughter. I think one thing we're losing quicker than golf courses in this this region is open recreational space for passive enjoyment. And when I see a piece of land that has extension up into BLM land where people can go out and enjoy on their own, to me, that screams for that asset. And also, I see when I go to North Valleys and Reed that touch up against running cross-country courses, I see that everyone at those schools and communities enjoys that. And, you know, we all see sports from our own perspective, but I'm a Worcester mom who's had to follow Worcester kids up Plum Lane with my car, making sure they're not coming in and out of driveways. So I know when a school is not supported by those open space opportunities and accessible to them. But my real question is about this FAA restrictions. And airport regulations, air contours, and so on is probably the most complex area of land use regulation that you'll come across. And in your preliminary discussions with the airport authority, is there anything, or the FAA, excuse me if it's the FAA, lead you to believe that you would have to change contours, which would potentially change flight paths? Is this school a big enough user that there would be a process of moving or requesting flight path changes, which then would bring up, you know, some of us who would have to be looking at any flight path changes of how it impacts the neighborhoods we represent? So I think we should just have, you know, true understanding of what the flight path considerations and changes could be and impacts to other areas.
Thank you, Councilwoman Breckus. Again, Pete Etchart, Chief Operating Officer, Washington County School District. We have had preliminary discussions with the Airport Authority just to talk about some of the issues they saw on this site. Now, there's nothing that's kind of like absolutely can't build on this site that came from them. The two major concerns they had really are sound and lighting. Sound is an issue we deal with many of our schools that are located near the flight path. And so we will definitely put that into our design of our school to make sure that whether it's triple insulated windows or whatever, not having skylight, some of those kinds of architectural features. The second one is on lighting. Basically, their biggest concern was on the football field. And we've dealt with that issue before on other schools where today's technology, thankfully, really renders itself well for when you talk about lighting. It's no longer that we're lighting the skies. We have dark sky, you know, technology with our lighting now, so we're strictly just lighting the fields. And they were happy with that. Actually, they were showing us in our meeting with them the specifications from the lighting that we used at Worcester High School. So we have that. As far as the flight path directly, we're far enough out that actually our buildings will not intrude upon that, the height restrictions or anything else. Now, we may move the location of the high school to be one side of the property to the other, depending on conversations with the airport authority, but we haven't gotten that far yet. But there's nothing from the airport authority that shows this being a project that just they would say reject.
Thank you, Councilwoman Breckus. Are there, Councilwoman Bribey?
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to thank you for what work you've done so far. I know we're moving fast. This is a huge project, but I appreciate the fact it's outside the box. I think it gives us the perfect opportunity to look at, we talk about regional cooperation, and all of us as regional partners wanting to do what's best for our region, not just my city or Reno or the county or the school district or the RSCVA. It's all of us working in tandem to see the best solutions we can come up with for the community. The multi-use possibilities here, public-private partnerships, the uses from the pool to a training facility to pre-K education. There's so many components in here that just reach different segments of the population that we're serving. The golf course, still maintaining the 9-hole golf course, I think would be critical, absolutely. And I think all the details will be worked out. I think this is very preliminary today on the overall, I'm guessing what you're looking for. It's just our overall approval that this is a good concept that details absolutely everything from our CVA to what Sparks and Reno and the county are expected to do as we move forward, what our part to play is, needs to be spelled out later, and all those things are important, and we need to have that information. But the general concept of what you're doing, I fully support. I think it has exciting implications for the whole community, and I want to thank you for the work that you've done and look forward to working together as we move forward. Thank you.
Any further discussions or comments at this time? All right. I'd just like to make one brief comment. I know that there are some significant challenges as we move forward with this project. We will see different things that will arise for the next couple of years through planning and the decision making. However, I do agree with Councilwoman Bybee. This is a project that lends itself to a multitude of areas and a multitude of people within our region, not specifically just golfing. And this is something that is truly a community project. This is something that will be a benefit to our region. We consistently hear in the news and the media how we are lacking the sustainability for quality of life here for jobs and economic development within our region. Schools are the backbone of some of that economic development. And without the schools and without the education and without the ability to offer services to a multitude of people from, golf is not going away with this. Golf may be reduced, but it's not going away. And I think that as we look at these projects and we see training facilities that could be used for multitude of sports from our regional and high school students and attendees, but also bringing people from the outside. Sparks, their facility at the Golden Valley Complex or Eagle Valley, thank you, I'm sorry. Golden Eagle. My goodness. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. But Golden Eagle brings a number of people to Sparks every year. It's a major financial benefit for the area because for softball and a number of different sports solutions. And we see from the Convention and Visitors Authority, sports programming is on the rise within the nation. And so we want to continue to be on the forefront of that. This is truly a benefit for the community. I have not seen one part of this in concept that doesn't lend itself to somebody within our community. And so I want to continue to see these projects move forward, and I'd like to see this type of regional effort amongst all the bodies here today. Truly all the stakeholders involved will make this project spectacular and really what it needs to be for the region as a whole. So I want to first thank you all for attending today and participating in this meeting and bringing some of those concerns to light, because that is how this process works and that's how this process gets started. But it takes the first step, and that step is here, having all of us at the table. So with that being said, I want to open it up to public comment. I have Mr. Daryl Capurro signed in, and then after that we'll have Ms. Carly Lott.
Thank you, Chairman. Lucy, for the record, I'm Daryl Capurro, fourth generation Nevadan. I have 2 generations beyond me that are here too. The property that Wild Creek Golf Course is on was owned by my family and goes back to, in some cases, land patents in the late 1850s. My dad farmed that area for many, many years and so he was well aware of what the soil conditions were, the runoffs and that sort of thing that you're talking about. And it was a problem in setting the golf course up the way it is now, I can tell you that, because they used to come to my dad to talk to him about different things relative to the runoffs and the like. It's in an alluvial fan, so you have all kinds of different soils that come down through there. A lot of caliche, a lot of that sort of materials that basically has to be dug out and replaced. So it's a very expensive process. And Mr. Lawson and Mr. McKenzie were absolutely correct on the things that they said. I would say this to you. We have spent a lot of time. We own property that has about 1,200 feet of frontage on the golf course, on the east side of the golf course. We have seen projects come up to the various agencies over the years that all fell away for one reason or another. We would like open space more than any. To be honest, we'd like to leave it as a golf course. If it has to be something else, then that's great, except that, I have to apologize. I didn't see anything about meetings with public input relative to any of this. And I realize it's conceptual, but it's a pretty fancy presentation for a conceptual presentation. So the fact of the matter is, a lot of work went into this. One thing I would say to you that would help greatly from people on the east side of the golf course would be to move those ball fields, flip them with the community center, because otherwise people all along that east side are going to be subject to lights, a lot of crowd participation and the like. It would just make a lot more sense to move those ball fields up where you show that field is. I hope that there'll be a lot of introspection regarding this project. There are a lot of things that are admittedly good, but there are a lot of things that are not good with this, and it's going to take time to put it together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Capurro. Next, we have Ms. Carly Lott.
Good morning. My name is Carly Lott, and I'm speaking to you today both as a graduate of Hug High School and as a current staff member in favor of building a new high school at the Wild Creek site. While it is also my hope that this new high school retain the name that has meant so much to the community that it serves of Proctor Hug, there are several reasons I feel this new high school is important. The first reason speaks to giving hope to students and the community who have been left without it for so long. 49 years ago, when Hug High School opened its doors, it was a campus with a large geographic zone that served all of North Reno. 35 years ago, McQueen High School opened, and many of the more affluent families who could afford to live in the suburbs of Reno were given a brand new school for their children. The Hug families were left with a still relatively new school, but a change in demographics and population. 16 years ago, North Valley's High School and Spanish Springs High School opened. Once again, the more affluent families who could afford to live in the suburbs of Reno and Sparks were given a brand new school, while the families at Hug were left with a drastically changed school demographic and buildings that were facing many needed upgrades. The population of Hug dropped drastically from the 2,200 students who were there when I attended to as low as 1,100. Hug became the first Title I high school in Washoe County, meaning that we served a population where the majority of families, at least 80%, were under the poverty level and needing some of the most help. While high schools surrounding Hug, like North Valley's, McQueen, and Reno, are all overcrowded, Hug has remained underpopulated. The message this sends to our families is that we as a district prefer certain schools to be overcrowded rather than sending our students to Hug. That Hug is somehow not good enough for all students, just those who cannot afford to live in another zone. I believe that opening this new school, which again I hope will retain the name of Proctor Hug, will be a strong message sent from our district and our community that we do not want to see these students and their families left behind for a third time. Twice, the families in this Hug zone have seen their more affluent peers get a brand new school with then state-of-the-art technology and designs. Twice, the Hug community has been left behind. This is the school district's, as well as the Reno Sparks community's, chance to send a message to the families that they will not be left behind again. No, this time the students, families, and community that the Hug now serves will be given the same opportunity to thrive in a new state-of-the-art high school. It is an investment in a community which has been told through actions time and time again that it is not important and its members do not matter, that indeed we do care and we wish to see them successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lott. Next, we have Ms. Jana Moyer.
Good morning. My name is Jana Moyer, and I am a class of 2003 graduate of Hug High School when Ms. Deborah Feemster was the principal. I have been teaching at Hug for 6 years, and I'm here today to express my strong support for this proposal. Last November, the citizens of Washoe County voted to increase their own taxes, which is no small miracle, in order to improve educational opportunities for our kids. I am proud of our community for making that decision, and I am proud that the leaders here today are choosing to make investments where they are most needed. There will, of course, be many people who do not share my support for this project, but there is no question that a new high school is necessary in this district, and the plans we've seen laid out today are incredibly logical. A new school at Wild Creek would be a great use of the land and would provide a much-needed new high school in the North Reno-Sparks area. A career and technical academy at the current Hug campus makes sense because the location is perfect for a magnet. It's easily accessible from the freeway and McCarran Boulevard, and the layout of the school is ideal for hosting different academies. So when there are complaints about funding this project or requests to change the zoning, as I'm sure there will be, I will ask you to remember that the voices who speak loudest in these matters tend to be the voices of those who already have the most, and yet have little concern for those in need. So please, choose carefully who you listen to. There's a Japanese proverb that says, "Vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare." Building or repurposing a high school is no small endeavor. It entails a large amount of money and involves many stakeholders, which can complicate the vision and make action slow and difficult, as you may be well aware. And I'm sure you will be faced with much opposition throughout the process. I am deeply concerned by the fact that in this community we have historically concentrated our students of color and those who come from low-income families into just a few schools whose facilities are subpar and whose populations are low, despite other more affluent schools being overcrowded. This de facto segregation is harmful to all students in our district for myriad reasons. But I believe the proposed project would be a step in the right direction. I know you will get pushback from people who don't want to see large sums of money spent in the designated neighborhoods. But I hope that your vision for these projects will demonstrate a commitment to equity. And I hope that the actions you take will help provide high-quality education to students from all of the communities in Washoe County. I believe that in the plans we've seen today, you are on the right track to do just that. Thank you for your time and for considering my thoughts.
Thank you, Ms. Moyer. Next, we have Ms. Christy Teroweiss. I'm sorry if I
That's okay.
mispronounced.
Hi, so my name is Kirsty Terabias. I'm a 2012 graduate of Hug High School, a 2016 graduate of the University of Nevada, Reno, and now I'm an employee at Hug High School. I am in favor of building this new Wild Creek High School, but I first want to start with the broken window theory. If you're not familiar with the broken window theory, it was developed in 1982 by James Wilson and George Kelling. It reads that it's a building with a broken window left unrepaired will give the appearance that no one cares and no one is in charge. Let's face it, Hug has really, really old buildings and some very old parts in the buildings. For example, the water fountain right outside of my office is taped off with plastic because it is clogged. So another thing that I want to mention is that Hug students often hear from other students at other schools that Hug is ghetto. As a graduate from there, I experienced that myself, and for a very long time I wanted to transfer to McQueen because of that. So they hear from other students, they see taped off water fountains like I do myself, and the teams and all the equipment in the classrooms are sometimes older as well. If we don't say anything about the less valuable pieces of equipment in their buildings, the more that they start believing that their education is less valuable. So a new high school facility would take out the detrimental factor that these kids believe themselves about their own education. So I hope that moving forward with this, we give my students an opportunity to believe themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Terabas. Next, we have Ms. Callie Van Horn.
Good morning, I'm Kelly Van Horn. I'm a teacher at Hug High School. I'm not much of a public speaker, but I was asked to be here by these lovely people. Each one of them are my students. So I stand as a picture with a very short caption for those who fear having Hug High School in their neighborhood. You have nothing to fear. I have been to some of the most affluential parts of this county, the city, the country, and the kids at our school have better manners than society is growing today. So please consider this location I stand in strong support of. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Van Horn. Next, we have Ms. Renee Martin.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'll just take a few of your moments.
I want to echo some of the sentiments that my colleagues have expressed today. I'm also a Hug High School graduate, 2004, also a student body president like Miss Angie Taylor. We're in an elite club. I would just like to say that I'm in strong support of this new school, and I'm really excited. Some of the plans that we heard today were really encouraging, and first, we were a little bit nervous about moving Hug High School because we love our students and we love our community, but the idea of this new school and all the things that it can encompass, I think is really exciting. I just wanted to say, once again, that our students have been left behind. I was one of those kids that was left behind when North Valleys was built, and I think it's hard to watch half of your community go into a brand new school while you get left, as Ms. Tobias said, with things kind of falling apart. And I think it creates a divide in our community as well. When we're telling our kids we're going to build schools on the outskirts when we could use a new school right in the middle, that would really bring us all together. And I think that's important, that message. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Next, we have Mr. Fred Berry.
My name is Fred Berry. I'm a resident of Village Green, and some of you know where it is, and others you might not. It's a small area right over here that is being greatly impacted right now by all the construction and the new Pyramid and McCarran intersection. Why? Because of all the growth up north that's coming in, and we'll be trying to go on McCarran to get to 395. I have no problem with the school, the location, but to see pictures where we will have to go into a parking lot and go a roundabout on Whittican to get back to McCarran, this whole traffic thing needs to be studied. McCarran needs to be 3 lanes each way from Pyramid to McCarran, not in the future 20 years, now. The other day, I'm not trying to be flip, I'll end with this. I watched 3 guys tee off, and I watched 2 of them putt out before I could get off of Whittican onto McCarran today, not 2 years when they build a school with all the students, with all the faculty, with all the buses coming in, and no big improvements on McCarran or Whittican. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Next, we have Mr. Jeff Church.
Thank you. Once again, my overhead. Hi, once again, Jeff Church, RenoTaxRevolt.com. Myself and other concerned taxpayers do support more high schools. Whether this is the right location or not, I've heard a lot of, he said it was a perfect location, then we've got all kinds of red flags, and I don't want to address that today. But one question I do have they considered leasing the land to the high school, to the school district? Would that get around some of the legal issues that have come up, a lease rather than a purchase? If it is a purchase, where's the money going to come from? I do remind you, and I'm not trying to be a grumpy old taxpayer, but there is litigation over WC1, and as you bond that, and if they ask you about future litigation, I'm telling you today, there is going to be future litigation. The other thing I want to talk about, mainly to the school district, but also to all of you taxpayers here today, is the cost of a high school. If you are going to transfer or lease the land, you need to be concerned about that. The Cunningham report that they mentioned didn't say the high school costs 110. It said $135 million per high school. The graphic that went up today from Mr. Eckhart said 110 for a high school. Mr. Eckhart previously testified just a few years ago on SB 207 funding that a high school would cost $85 million. Now, DeMonte Ranch High School was only about $35 million. If you put in inflation, it's about $44 million, and if you go $292 a square foot, which is what the liberal Gwynn report from Las Vegas said, you're looking at about $70 million. So again, my concern for all of you is possible waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, let's spend the money wisely if you're going to approve this, whether it's built here, whether it's built somewhere else. But again, I am very, very concerned about that. And again, we need proper oversight, independent oversight. You know and I know that if you had a true independent person looking over this, a real fiscal expert, not a committee that meets once or twice a year, they could find millions of dollars in savings. We know that. You can't look at yourself and go, no, that's not true. They're not going to find anything. You know they'll find it. And we do need to look to make sure capital funds are properly spent. Are they going for administrators? Are they going for private cars for administrators? Are they going for computers in the building, which would not be a proper use of the money, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I urge you avoid waste, fraud, and abuse. And again, I'm not a fiscal expert. I haven't gone through all the books, but what I've seen doesn't look good, and I'm happy to sit down with the district attorney or anybody else that can look into this matter at any time and show you what I found. We did find some amazing emails just last week, a couple weeks ago, from government officials about WC1. I wish we'd had them 6 months ago. They weren't provided to us. They are extremely damaging to the process, to the electoral process. They are not something that the people that wrote those could be proud of. Extremely damaging, and that's going to come out in the public soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Next, we have Mr. Sam Dene.
Sam, DNA Dene, that's me. Sam, the philanthropic, for the benefit of these young ladies here who have not met me before, seen me in action before, I am the DNA, the philanthropic DNA of Reno government. America has, I'm responsible for 92% of the good things about Reno. Start that off. But America has no greater patriot, warrior, or entertainer than Sam DNA Dene. That's me, whose greatness is only superseded by his humbleness. What are the chances? I don't want to get sideways with these young ladies, but I've been coming to these meetings, I think before any of them were even born, maybe other than their instructor there. At any rate, government in its simplest form, to analyze all of these people in this room, dozens and dozens of people, all with their own issues, all with their own problems, all with their own desires, but government comes down to who wins, who loses, who pays, and what do the people think? Who wins, who loses, who pays, and what do the people think? Well, I don't know who's going to win this one, but I know who's paying. It's all of you people out there who, by the skinniest of margins, voted for a infinite school tax. I've never seen an infinite. The taxes, you people will be in your graves, and your children will be in their graves, and they'll still be taxing people. And when you have an infinite tax, I know about bureaucrats because I've watched bureaucrats for a long time. And we got more bureaucrats in this room than normal. But bureaucrats, when there's money, they find a way to spend it. They find a way to spend it, and guess who benefits the most from that spending? The people who made them the bureaucrats in the first place. The people who built them the billboards and rigged the votes and got them in the first place. They're the ones who win. I'm a believer also through these 26 years of continuous, she's fanning herself, she's getting all nervous, through these, nice smiley face. Through all these years, I've watched many, many, many cases, and I've found out one thing that's important is this thing called neighborhood self-determination. None of you live in the area of this going on. None of you live where there's a few people back there who are going to have their lives devastated, and there's thousands and thousands more who are going to have their lives devastated by the building of these schools, and then just the general traffic and gaggle going on. I don't think you should be voting on the next issue until you have a meeting where all of the citizens announce it, and they all know that this is taking place. Nobody knew about it. Even that gentleman over there said he didn't know anybody knew about it.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
it.
Dene.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, thank you.
At this
Nice
time, we'll
smiley face.
Thank you, Mr. Dene. At this time, we'll bring it back to the board. Is there any further discussion on this item at this time? Seeing none, we will close agenda item 7. We will be on to agenda item 8. So At this point, agenda item 8 is the discussion and possible approval of a letter of intent between Washoe County School District, Washoe County, the City of Sparks, City of Reno, and the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority to cooperate in the development of a new high school in Sparks, Nevada, and repurpose Proctor R. Hug High School in Reno, Nevada. So what this item is going to do, each body, we will look to, for voting purposes, for discussion on how we move forward with this process and what that looks like. So at this time, we're going to open it up for discussion. So, Ms. Angie Taylor. President Angie Taylor, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thanks for all of you that came out, and thanks for all the great work that was done to get us to this place here today. This is something that's very exciting to us in the Washoe County School District, not just for us and the 64,000 students that we serve and the 9,000 or so employees that work with us, but really we believe it's something that's extremely positive, extremely forward-thinking, and really extremely brave for the region. So I would thank you for the opportunity to make comments, because I really would like to urge support for this from each of the governing bodies that are around the table, just because what we're voting on, remember, is we're voting to say that we think it's a good idea to cooperate, to take a look at this and see if this is something that will work best for our region. We aren't breaking ground tomorrow. Nothing like that is happening, but should we move forward cooperating and working together on such a creative solution? I'm asking for your support to really instruct our staffs to continue the big thinking, the out-of-the-box thinking, the creative thinking that doesn't just solve a problem for us, but really addresses a lot of needs and concerns across the region, to cooperate to find answers to some really good questions that have come up today, questions that do need to be and that should be addressed, to cooperate to consider the suggestions and address concerns that have come up today, because community input is vitally important, especially as we move forward on such a regional project. And then asking for your support to just urge the cooperation to creatively move forward together as a region for something that could impact this entire community for many, many years to come. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, President Taylor. Any further discussion? Vice Mayor Jardin.
Thank you very much. I too appreciate the expeditious manner that you brought the initiation of this forward. There's a lot of details that we all need to be focused on, a lot of input, a lot of answers that we need to receive to be more comfortable with this, but I, for one, am excited for the way in which the Washoe County School District has brought this innovative project forward so that we can get a move on. You know, I think we can all agree that we need new schools built yesterday, and you have to start somewhere, and this is a collective start where we can all work together to meet the needs of our children. So with that, I would look to one of my council members to make a motion.
Well, can we do, let's, we're going to finish discussion, some further discussion here.
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Hartung.
I have a question for our legal. Since we don't have a quorum of all of the bodies listed in the agreement, can it be ratified today, Mr. Luparelli?
Mr. Chairman, for Commissioner Hartung, the letter of intent contemplates the approval of all the agencies. So if we miss one, like the RCVA, who doesn't have a quorum here today, they can approve it subsequently at one of their own meetings. The main goal was to make sure that the staff that has to go gather all these, all this data, look for those answers, was doing so with your approval. As the directorship of all these agencies, there's a lot of staff time that needs to get spent on this. So approving the letter of intent is a way of starting the process, certainly not anywhere close to the end of the process, just the beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Luparelli. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. All right. All right, so I'm going to call, looking for a motion from the Washoe County Commissioners.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion from Commissioner Jung. I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying yes. Yes. I'm sorry, public comment. Thank you very much. We do have public comment signed in. I have Mr. Andrew Diss signed in. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Andrew Diss for the record with the Grand Sierra Resort. I wanted to come and talk to you all before you take this vote you're about to do and let you know that the Grand Sierra fully supports the idea behind this project. We're in a situation where a large number of our employees have children attending both Hug and Spanish Springs High School. And it's just one of those quirks of zoning where we have a situation, a lot of the employees are close to the McCarran Ring. They're actually closer to Hug, but they have to go to Spanish Springs instead. And for our employees who have to drive up Pyramid Highway, drop their kids off, and then come back all the way down, and then come to work at Grand Sierra in the morning, it creates a hardship. You know, Commissioner Hartung can tell you more than anybody what that traffic is like in the morning, and it creates a hardship for our employees. But the other aspect for this is the fiduciary responsibility of all of you. When you look at the financial documents, the RSCVA projects that Wild Creek Golf Course is going to lose $218,000 this year. And you know, that's public tax dollars that are running in the red, and there's a lot of needs. We have flooding going on in North County. You heard stuff about the jail. RSCVA wants to beef up their marketing budget. There's just, those dollars can go a lot further, and you know, having them go into the facility that loses money every year, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for us from that fiduciary perspective. So for those reasons, I just urge all of you to support this idea. We fully support it at Grand Sierra, and I hope all of you go down this road and can support it yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diss. Mr. Sam Dene.
Sam DNA, Sam DNA, Dene, that's me. I'm sort of feeling like I'm sort of running this meeting in a sense, coming up here one after another, but I want you all to know that because I'm the only person here at the podium virtually, that means de facto I speak for 300,000 people who are satisfied with what I'm saying. If they didn't like what I was saying, they would come down here and say, I don't like what Sam says. But like I said, de facto, I'm speaking for 300,000 people. And I hate to be a curmudgeon, like I told you before. Air Force Academy graduate, I believe in schools. I was one of the driving forces that actually got this infinite tax passed thanks to Colonel Kazmierski begging me to come to the podiums, begging and pleading with me to come to the podiums. But I don't know who came up in this whole discussion. Nobody came up with and said, whose idea was this scheme that we're going to be voting on here? Why did they pick Wild Creek and that sort of thing? Whose idea was that? Why didn't they ask me? I would say, pragmatically speaking, this school should be built over in Story County. That's where it should be built, because that's where all the workers' children, that's where the workers who have children are working. So why don't you build a school right there? They can drop them off to school, go to work, pick them up, and come home. Why? Nice smiley face over there. That's too logical. But anyway, I really think I've been around long enough. I saw the train trench frenzy. $1 billion spent. The city of Reno is really bankrupt because if they had to pay for that thing, they can't even pay for it. For no reason, the frenzy of the train trench. Then the 2007, 2008 frenzies where you couldn't build enough houses. 2 years later, they were canceling all the developments. Now we've got this frenzy, and it's all predicated on those businesses over there on the other side of the mountain being successful, and most of you don't even know if they're really obeying the laws. They're able to get developments going. They say you walk in, turn in your papers, and you get the development approved the same day. So we don't really know if this is all going to work out. I really think before you take this vote, and I haven't seen the letter of intent and how far it goes, but I think before you take this vote, I think you should invite the citizens who live in that neighborhood, or all the citizens for that matter, and let them sit here and see if this was what they planned. Did they want beautiful sports arenas and swimming pools and all that? They voted for schools for the children. Schools for the children. Not extravagances, and I don't want them to live in poverty, but just schools for the children and not all of this extraneous stuff. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you over there for listening. And believe it or not, this is my last time today.
Thank you, Mr. Dene. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second on the floor, but further discussion. Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be supporting the motion, but just to have the conversation, there's a lot of unanswered questions about this. A lot of infrastructure questions that really need to be answered and need to be addressed. I've watched the Washoe County School District march forward in Spanish Springs. We have a high school and a middle school on a 2-lane road, and it was never contemplated that the traffic would look like that, and I don't want to see McCarran looking like Eagle Canyon, and so I'm very concerned. I want to see what those flows are going to look like, and I want to see the geometries of those intersections. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartung. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call for the vote for all county commissioners. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Burke-Bigler being absent. Madam Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much. For the City of Reno, may I get a motion?
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would move adoption of the letter of intent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Wait, there is.
Oh, my apologies. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor, and I'm going to oppose this because of one thing. It ties this to investigating building a school at Wild Creek. If this was to support the movement of the Washoe County School District to find a adequate school location to replace high school, I would be very much in support of that. But the fact that this is limiting them to investigating Wild Creek Golf Course as a site of first school, I would be opposing it.
Madam Vice Mayor.
Councilwoman Breckus.
I'm going to support it, but I'm going to just cast out a big word of concern is protecting the flight paths of the Reno Tahoe Airport is going to be so key. I've learned that the FAA has so much authority to come into a community and move things around, and incremental decisions could put you in a place where the next discussion in 10 years is about high schools. It's also moving the airport. And I think that happens community after community, and we really need to understand and charge our airport representatives to let us know if we're not doing them a favor here. And so I'll be maybe discussing that at the Reno City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bobsey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I want to echo that concern about the flight path issue. That is a complex one. It's one that our community hasn't really dealt with for quite a while, and there's definitely some exposure there. But there's exposure, as we've heard throughout the course of the morning, on a wide number of topics and complexities. And this letter of intent is the first step toward moving down the path with all those complexities and trying to address them, and certainly working with the community, both the student population as well as neighbors, as we're trying to figure this out. And I don't believe complexity is a reason to not move something forward, and we owe it to our community to do so.
Thank you very much. Very well said. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1.
City Sparks, discussion? Mr. Lawson?
Mr. Mayor, obviously, this falls right in Ward 2 in Sparks, so this is a huge impact on my people in particular, and Mr. Berry pointed out the best. Whittakin's almost unusable at this point. The pyramid in McCarran, unfortunately, I believe is going to be obsolete by the time it gets done. So I'm not against the school, and I'm not against having it there. There's a lot that needs to be done, and I don't think we've done enough homework at this point. And to have the goal of 2021, I don't know if that's realistic or not. It took us 4 years just to get Pyramid and McCarran approved by the neighborhood, and I'll guarantee you that those neighbors are very vocal, and they are very much motivated to come out and give their opinion in public. So I'm going to support the move forward because it's the right thing to do. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of questions I have, and I'm going to ask them all, and I'm going to be probably the biggest pain for you guys in the future. Thanks.
Too late. Ed, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, let's do a second for discussion.
And I'll second.
Mr. Dare is seconds for discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Dare.
I'll second that, but I do want to also echo Mr. Lawson's voice in the sense that I think it's our job to come and look at it. I think there are many questions, but I don't know that we can get any answers if we don't say, yes, let's look at it. And so hopefully that's what we're saying yes to. I would probably encourage the idea, and I say this, of keeping our eyes open to other ideas. If this does not work out, obviously a plan B has wisdom to it. To stop and say this is the only thing we could do probably has an issue. But I'm going to support it and second that, because I do think that I think it's a great area, and I don't think it's good that we have a loss going on a regular basis at a golf course or any business that runs. So with that, I second it with caution, but
Ivy?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think all those questions are going to be answered. This is preliminary. This is just the very start of the conceptual idea that's come before us today with a lot of moving parts. I have no issues with what will happen as we move forward, and we have the timeline to do that. So I have no reservations about that. I fully support what we're doing because I think it's in the best interest of our entire community, and so I will be supporting the motion.
Anyone else? Discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right. President Taylor.
For the Washoe County School District, I'll entertain the motion if that's your pleasure. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Before I make the motion, I just want to say I probably am close to the oldest living Sparksite here, and I'm glad to see that the school district's going to improve the northern half of Sparks by a regional program, and this is going to be region-wide. So I make a motion that the school district approve the letter of intent for Wild Creek High School.
I second that.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. Thank you, Trustee
I'd
Franco.
also like to make a couple comments as I second that motion.
Please do, for discussion.
Yes, and one of the things I'd just like to reiterate, and I appreciate everyone's comments, and this is an exciting day for the district and for our community. One of the things I think it's very important going forward, and I think we've already expressed it, but I'd like to reiterate, or at least my commitment. I know my colleagues on the Board of Trustees share this commitment to making this a very community-oriented process that involves community input. I think we have a great opportunity. We've started thinking outside of the box. There's a lot of envisioning to do, and I think the community brings a lot of wonderful ideas to the table. I think one of the areas where we have a great need for involvement and community input, and I encourage the community to take advantage of opportunities as they emerge over the next several years regarding this project. But one of the areas is that repurposing of Hug High School and how it can best meet the needs in terms of economic development and workforce development. So having our regional partners be a part of that conversation is really important. And I also think it's important to continue to hear from members of our community, the neighboring community, the parents, and the students. I love to find opportunities and make sure we encourage opportunities to get their input into this process as we move forward. So I'm honored to second the motion.
Thank you, Trustee Franco. Any further discussion from Board of Trustees? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor that we approve the letter of intent. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion is carried.
Thank you, President Taylor.
Thank you.
And as Commissioner Hartung pointed out earlier, we do not have a quorum of the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority, so we will not be taking any action for Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority today. However, we will be bringing this issue back in our regular May meeting. So, so to be continued at that time. May 24th. Let me confirm, the third Thursday.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might, before everybody starts dispersing, I will need the chairs for each entity that just approved the letter of intent, the attorney with signing power for each entity, and the clerks to meet after the meeting so we can get all that documentation signed.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
All right, so we will close Agenda 8 with the passage of the signature of the letter of intent by the entities here represented today. We will move on to Agenda Item 9, comments from councils, commissions, and board. Councilwoman Dewar.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo the comments of Trustee Frankel, and I thought about making that as same comments during ours. I didn't want to hold up the proceedings, but I think it's not only important to include the public, but to have regular meetings with the public and to be extraordinarily transparent. This has issues. There are already concerns that have been registered by the public here today, by our colleagues, and I think it's a very, very important and I hope Mr. Etchart's especially listening to this, that whether it's on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis, but probably monthly, that you do hold community forums. What do they want? What are the issues? How should we address them? I was Googling the distance. It's about 1.8 miles between these two schools, the existing Hug School and the proposed area in Wild Creek. And, what does that bring with it? People that have been walking, as the point was made, now maybe have to bus. People that were busing maybe could walk, except they have to cross McCarran. That's a big issue. So, all of this stuff, and especially transportation, we've had a number of issues at Reno City Council about schools either being on corridors or two-lane streets, and how do we mitigate that? So just, I think, a lot of attention at this early phase before final decisions are made is going to be very important to getting the community buy-in that we're going to need. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Dewar. Any further comments or discussions? All right, seeing none, I want to thank all of my colleagues here today. I think this was a very productive day and a very strong step in the right direction. I'm proud to sit on and share this dais with all of you. I think this is the right decision for our community, and I look forward to addressing these concerns as we move forward and having all of the public input and student input from every entity as we move forward. So thank you for your time here today. Appreciate that. With that, we'll go to our final public comment. And I don't show anybody signed in for public comment at this time. So, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Those just popped up here. Still working through. We're still working through that. Mr. Sam Dene.
Sam DNA, the DNA of Reno government, the heart, soul, body, and mind. The short version of my introduction. They probably figured I lied because I told that was my last comment, but I can't walk away and get another public comment in right here almost for free. I want to reiterate what I said 3 hours ago when I arrived here, that I look at this renowned board of the usual suspect who's. I don't see anybody here on it, I don't think. Maybe I missed you. And I'll tell you somebody you know darn well who's not on there, right? Sam Dene, never been invited to a board. I take that as a compliment, by the way. Never been invited to any board. I know more about the government than all of these people added together. I've been to more meetings, more public testimonies, listened to more than all of these people added together, and all of you people out there too, including Mr. Rombardo, who goes all the way back 10 years ago when he was the city attorney for, the district attorney for the Carson City meetings, and he loved my appearances there. At any rate, cameo. I reiterate, though, that Mr. Slaughter, the county manager who I nominated to his job, should be on this board. They're really missing a lot of talent there. All right, just the last thing. I'm not talking about schools. I criticize the bureaucrats. I criticize the governments. You castigate them sometimes, but they're not nearly. And the only reason I have to castigate them is because the media wacko freaks at the Reno Gazette and Channel 2, 4, and 8 and the radio, all of them are so scared in their pantyhose and pants of Sam Dene, they'll never report the brilliant things, even the dumb things I say. They'll never report it, period. And the latest one has been this thing, their attack on the sheriff. I'll give you a quick background. The person who wrote this, she just got scared of being embarrassed going to Reno City Council meetings because I would embarrass her all the time by saying, when are you going to write the truth? And they never do. There's the city attorney over there. He sees me. Now that person was relegated to the jail. And that's why I got all these reports about the jail. She's reported more about the jails in 3 weeks than she reported about Sam Dene in 10 years or whatever it's been. Well, the jails weren't good enough. Now guess where she is? She's relegated to the psychiatric ward. This attack on, again, I said jails are no fun. It's no fun to be in jail, obviously. You don't want to go there. And there's some innocent people in there, but jails are no fun. Maybe we've had more deaths than we should, but to take it right there, headlines everywhere when people are dying out on our highway, probably 10 times more people have died on our highways than in the jails. That's it for the day. Thank you for attending the Sam Dene Show.
Next, I have Ms. Carol Burns.
My name is Carol Burns. I'm a resident of Washoe County. I was hoping there would be more golfers here today, and there are hardly any outside of Sam. But I would like to protest because I am a ardent fan of the Wild Creek Golf Course, and I did not know until it appeared in the terrible paper that we have here that this was going on. But I'm heartbroken that we're going to lose another public golf course. You're going to save 9 holes, you say, but 9 holes where they currently are flat, and they are good for seniors, and they're good for people that are just starting out. And then you're going to put them on the hillside, which, of course, we can have golf carts, but it's a lot easier to golf on the flat, let me clue you. I can't believe that in this enormous county that we don't have more appropriate places or places that could be demolished, like the Pyramid neighbors, to create a high school for the children. Mine are all gone. They went to the ancient schools in Sparks, but I see nothing being said about Robert Mitchell or a little bit about Sparks High, but I really think that you need to look more. You haven't done enough looking around to me. It seems like everything is planted where we don't want it in this county, and the public is ignored as far as their opinions are concerned. But I did want to come in today and say, I'm sorry that you're going to take our golf course again.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. All right, seeing no further public comment at this time, we are looking for adjournment. We have a motion to adjourn. I'll second. We are adjourned.
Do we have to do each entity?
Each entity.